OTB AM.
Brought to you by Avantcard Reward Plus Credit Card. Powered by MasterCard. Straight up better than your current credit card. Avantcard DAC is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
It's 7:30 and you're very welcome along to OTB AM, and a very happy Monday morning to you, especially if you're from Limerick or Wexford this morning. Whether you're bleary-eyed and waking up this morning or just getting home, you're very welcome along to the show. We've got John Duggan and Conor McKeon with us in studio, and you can get in touch with us at Off The Ball on Twitter. You can comment on the stream on YouTube or Facebook similarly. The lads here been watching the GAA all weekend. John, you were down at the Munster final yesterday.
Good morning, Eoin and Conor. Yeah, it was just a great day, a great Munster final occasion for Limerick beating Tipperary. And I walked with the Limerick and Tip fans from Castlebar station to the Gaelic grounds. Took about half an hour. Actually saw the Limerick bus coming in on a motorcade. Kind of wanted to get involved in that, but I'm not that exalted in the company. I'm not a hurler, so yeah, it was just a sunny day. The rain generally kept away, and it was power hurling from Limerick in front of their own fans. First Munster crown in 6 years. They don't win that many Munster titles, so they were really, really impressive. I was so impressed by them, and you saw the support at the end. It was pretty magical. What's the bigger story from yesterday, Conor? Oh, Wexford's the bigger story.
Yeah, it's the bigger story. But like I developed a theory yesterday morning that the big losers or the big sacrifice of the new provincial, like the provincial championships in hurling, are now the best thing in the GAA. They're incredible, and I just thought that the big victim of that was the provincial finals themselves, because like every game in the province, there's so much tension involved because teams know if they don't win that they're under pressure, and then they carry that narrative into the next week. And yesterday morning I was thinking about the 4 teams involved, and I was saying, well, look, is anyone going to be too pushed here? Like, I think, like, for every team involved, the sun is going to rise tomorrow morning regardless. And you could argue that in some cases the team beaten had been in a better position in the All-Ireland series. And then you saw what Limerick did to Tipperary, and you saw what that would do for the two teams. And then you saw the outpouring of like, it's one of those classic famine-ending victories for Wexford. Like, it was a better story, but Limerick was easily the better performance. It was all kinds of awesome, I think.
Have you started to put this into context, John, in terms of what we're actually seeing here with this Limerick team? Is this borderline the best team post-Kilkenny that we've seen?
We'll wait and see what happens at Croke Park. Like, they're doing everything right to confirm that view, but like, it's the first time since 1936 that they've held the league, the Munster and the All-Ireland crowns. It's not insignificant, but let's wait and see what happens at the semi-final and the final. If they win it again back-to-back, that'll be pretty impressive. Like, they really were amazing around the middle third yesterday. I felt that Cian Lynch was a really good pivot. There was just one moment in the second half when Tom Morrissey put it over, and you could just feel the crowd and the ground shake a bit, the Gaelic grounds. Then Kyle Hayes scored a goal a couple of minutes later, and then Nicky Quaid saved brilliantly from Cannon, and that kind of 5-minute spell summed up the match really for me. But the stick work was great, the intricacy of the play. They were getting into the lines, and like even the first goal, like, it was like a diving header in football. It was like Galan getting into the corner, centering it to Casey, just coming in first time, back of the net. And I was delighted to see kind of almost like traditional hurling, and not an emphasis on sweepers. I know Wexford used Kevin Foley at Croke Park, but it was like Callanan, go for the jugular. Limerick, if they got a goal chance, they go for it, and like, that is so exciting. And I was kind of commenting on Twitter that when I was a Clare fan, and I still am, but like in the late 90s, Clare started winning. They won 2 All-Irelands. They were winning Munster titles. The feeling of satisfaction and fulfilment when you begin to win after such a barren period of not winning and peering through the window and seeing other counties win. It is so fulfilling, and you could see like they were beeping the horns around Limerick City. Everybody was walking in, like there was the sun came out, but it was a kind of a feeling of like the sunburst was radiating around. I'm not kind of trying to be like poetic here or anything like that, but that feeling of winning, and you really, gives you that glow, and you think, we're on such a journey now. Like, all these people in Limerick think about the semi-final, possibly the final. To break through once, it's very romantic, and it's very special, and it's very new. But then when you start winning again, I think sometimes even as a fan, not let alone a player, you can appreciate it more.
Yeah, like I think it's easy to be wise after the fact, but I think there was something different to this Limerick team than other previous breakthrough acts, that it was like, this team is serious, this team means business, especially when we saw them kind of come to the Alliance Leagues this year in such flying form that they weren't going anywhere after winning their All-Ireland. They weren't just content with their campaign in 2018.
Yeah, but at the start of the league, that was absolutely, the thing to take out of it, that Limerick haven't gone away. Like everybody commented on how well they wore their success last year, that it didn't seem to have affected them in any sort of great way, but you don't know until they're in that situation. And going into yesterday's game, they had lost 2 games in Munster. The 2 teams that they had beaten, Clare and Waterford, couldn't consistently get to their levels this year at all. So there was huge question marks over them going into yesterday's game. Now, had they lost yesterday, they would be in an All-Ireland quarter-final against Dublin or Laois, and you'd probably still have backed them to get to the All-Ireland final. But losing 3 games out of 5 is, that's a huge sign of a team that's not quite at the races. So, on the basis of one performance, but John talks about their stick work and the way they moved the ball around the middle, I thought they defended incredibly well. All the talk of being about tips forwards and their movement and their sharpness and their stick work, but that full back line yesterday, there was one incredible moment when a ball came in to Shamie Callanan in the left corner, and he was being ghosted by Sean Finn, and he kind of jinked right and Finn closed him off. He jinked left, Finn closed him off. He jinked right again and took a shot, and Finn got the block. And it was just there's no substitute anymore. The sweeper debate, you could have it forever, but there's no substitute for having very tight man markers who are very, very confident in what they do. It's a bit like in the Wexford Kilkenny game. There was one moment that stood out for me when Kilkenny were chasing a goal late on, and I can't remember, it might have been TJ or Colin Fenley who had a point from the left wing, and he could have put it over the bar, but he decided to square it. He saw a man inside, and Liam Ryan read it. He read it absolutely brilliantly, but you need the confidence of an inside back to be able to do that, because if you make a mistake, if you slip, if you don't win the ball, they're in for a goal. And Limerick's full back line yesterday was absolutely incredible.
Is there something about this Limerick team in particular, John, that gets that crowd so vociferous? Is it the sort of chasing down of the Tipperary backs, a turnover that led to Kyle Hayes' goal yesterday? Because that's the sort of thing that can really get the crowd up, that can really get the team up.
Well, like Wexford, I just think Limerick have that type of support. So I was there, 6 years ago when they beat Cork 24-15 in the Munster final, and the place went berserk.
Yeah, it's a great day.
So Limerick just have that support, but now they have the team to equate with the support. So they've always had that ravenous county support in Limerick. But it was noticeable yesterday, the decibels. It was noticeable that this was a home, or a real home fixture. It wasn't like a neutral Munster final. It was a real home game. So, they're just what about under 21 hurling? And Limerick had a couple of All-Irelands, and Wexford won 3 Leinsters in a row at under 21. Maybe we're seeing that sometimes it doesn't transfer, as it hasn't happened really for Clare, but it has happened for Limerick and for Wexford. And the one thing I've kind of taken out of Wexford's performance is, still unbeaten in the championship, is they don't fear Kilkenny anymore. They used to fear Kilkenny. They used to go in there and feel, they were the team that closed it out with composure yesterday. Only 3 wides to Kilkenny's 12. But it is Seamus Callanan had scored that goal. Would Limerick have got a bit nervy, that kind of thing? Once that save was made by Nicky Quaid, it was just a free-for-all there.
What's your view on that? In an alternate reality, if Callanan had scored that,
I think Limerick might have won by 4 or 5, but not by 12. I think they still would have won. But they're just such an exciting team, and they just play good hurling. And you have to say that Paul Conor has been a huge part of that. John Kiley to me is the man. He's the motivator. He's seen it. He was involved in panels. He was involved with John Allen in 13. He seems like an extremely good man manager and a very honest kind of manager. But Paul Connor's coaching as well, you'd have to say, just as much as JJ Doyle and Davies' backroom team. These things are they're packages of management, not just the front man. For Kilkenny, they'd have to take something out of the fact that they'd 9 more wides than Wexford have, but still, is there too much reliance on TJ Reid? For Tipperary,
they had a lot of wides down at Wexford Park as well. It's becoming a thing with this team, particularly when there's so many question marks about whether the forward line is, and it's not as good as it was before.
No, it's not.
Colin Fenley, he could cut loose at any stage and get you 2 goals, but he has had an awful lot of wides. And other than Adrian Mullen, there's none of those kind of cast of pretenders who have got into the team, haven't quite cracked it, had little flourishes, but haven't been consistent enough to command a consistent place in the team. So for the moment, and it's a bizarre thing to say, because if you told us 5-6 years ago, we'd be having a conversation that Kilkenny lack forwards, we'd have laughed out of the place. But that is their issue at the moment. But one stat I thought was really interesting yesterday was Wexford retains 17 of 34 puckouts, which is 50%. And if you'd have told me yesterday morning that they'd retain 50%, I would have said that they would get savaged. But they went long with nearly every puckout. I know they went short a couple early in the second half, but I wonder, just because the day that was in it and the prediction of how warm it was going to be and how energy sapping the weather was going to be, whether Davy decided that they'd actually make the ball do a little bit more work, because like they're so good at finding. I remember at the game in Parnell Park against Dublin, they were so good at finding those, just generating a spare man and finding a 20-yard puck out and then actually building from the back. But they went along with the vast majority of their puckouts yesterday. They only retained 50% and they still won the game, which I think is kind of remarkable.
Yeah, it really is. John, just on a final point on the hurling yesterday, in terms of all the Munster finals you've been to, where does yesterday rank? In terms of the atmosphere now, in terms of
it was good. It was a good match, but it was a good match. I felt it was a good atmosphere, a good match. I would keep the ticket. That's always one of the John Duggan determinants of whether something's good or not. But yeah, it's probably the best Munster final I've been at in I don't know how long, but definitely better some of the Tip Waterford games I was at in the last few years. So yeah, it's better than the 13 one as well. Like Tipperary were good first half of the first half. They were good. They were 5 points in front, but after that it was just a one team show. And I think Nicky English is right this morning that like Limerick are the team to beat, and I would agree with him. I definitely think they're the team to beat, and Cork are still are a bit of an unknown quantity for me. But as somebody said, can Cork put 3 performances together to win the All-Ireland? They can maybe put 1 performance. Could they put 3 together? Don't think Wexford will win the All-Ireland, but you can never count Davy Fitzgerald off. Like it really is. It reminds me of like even the goalkeeper coming up, Mark Fanning. Like it reminds me of 1995. Davy
the run back. I was just waiting for him to go full Davy on the run back to his own goal, but that never materialised.
It does remind me of that a bit. But just though I always call Wexford the Newcastle of GAA. Like in hurling and Mayo are the Newcastle for football.
Given the current struggles, I'm not sure Wexford fans take that. But,
no,
I can kind of see the point.
It's more the fanaticism of their support, the fanaticism of Wexford support. Like they're going to be so buzzed down there today, and like after 15 years, it's a long time.
Before we let you go, and we're going to get into the sports pages in just a moment, why is the Rocket Mortgage Classic in Detroit at the weekend an important sporting event that people might have missed?
Because the guy who won it is called Nate Lashley. He's from Nebraska in the States, and he won last night. He won easily, but he's had like you're talking about somebody who has got steel-like resilience and an ability to persevere in life and to come back from tragedy. This guy had the most, I think, unthinkable or unspeakable tragedy that I've ever read about. He was playing college golf, and his parents and his girlfriend were flying back from watching him play college golf, and they were killed in a plane crash in Wyoming in 2004. So he lost his parents, who'd supported him, and he lost his girlfriend in a plane crash 15 years ago. He then tried to get onto the tour. He sold real estate, wasn't sure if he was going to make it in golf. Then said, okay, I'm going to give it one more shot. Got onto these kind of satellite tours, got onto the secondary tour, the web.com tour, won a tournament on that, was hovering around the PGA Tour in the States. Didn't get into last week's tournament, had been playing well, played in the Monday qualifier last Monday, didn't qualify, even though shot a good round, didn't qualify, was hanging around in Detroit, and he was the third alternate, which means that 3 players need to drop out for you to get in. On Wednesday, David Berganio Jr. dropped out, and Nate Lashley was the last player to get into the field of 156 for the Rocket Mortgage Classic on the US Tour. Shot 263s and then won by, I think, 6 or 7 shots last night. Incredible story. His sister was there, his girlfriend was there, and to go through that personal tragedy, to not sure if you're going to ever play the game professionally, and to win on the PGA Tour. He's booked his place to the Open or Portrush, to the Masters. It is a fairy tale, and he was the last person to get into the field. It was written in the stars, but the way he handled himself in the final round, driving the ball down the fairway, like even the approach to the last hole, it is some story, and I think it's a story that transcends not just golf but also sport. Because it just shows that never give up, and good things can happen even after terrible tragedies.
Yeah, for sure. And there's going to be a full piece from John on offtheball.com later on, so you may as well check that out. John, thanks a million.
All right, guys,
for popping in. Newspapers in the back pages are coming up next, but before that, check this out.
Join Off the Ball in Abu Dhabi this November 17th to 23rd for the inaugural Off the Ball Open. With flights from Dublin, 5 nights in a 4-star hotel, golf on 2 championship courses, gala awards dinner, Peter Lorry golf clinic, and a live off-the-ball roadshow. You can also hang out with some special guests, including Kevin Kilban and Kieran Donaghy. The inaugural Off the Ball Open. Book now at CassidyTravel.ie and check out offtheball.com.
Let's tell you what's coming up on OTBAM this Monday morning. We're going to have Wexford and Limerick reaction throughout the show this morning. We're going to have the sports pages coming up momentarily, and Liam Griffin will be joining us for our first piece of analysis at 8:05. After that then, Liam McHale will join us at around 8:25 to talk us through Mayo's win on Saturday night in particular and go through the rest of the qualifier wins. We will have the qualifier draw then around 10 minutes after that, and we'll get Liam's take on that as well. Deal or No Deal is coming your way at 9 a.m. with Phil Egan, and he'll also hang with us to bring us the sports news. But before all that though, it is time for the back pages, and I'm going to start this morning with the Irish Examiner front page of their sports section, and it is sitting pretty. Lethal Limerick add Munster title to All Ireland and league crowns, and Leinster's new kings. Davy delivers, Chin inspires, as Wexford claim first provincial title since 2004.
This morning's Irish Independent, they live with Wexford Rising, and it's Davy's winning recipe smells like team spirit as model men and 15-year wait for glory, and a picture of Wexford Island match. Rory O'Connor celebrates with the Bob O'Keefe Cup.
The Irish Times sports section goes with Lee Chin and Davy Fitz celebrating together on the Croke Park pitch yesterday. Wexford reclaimed their place in the sun on a day of high emotion. Walker hits the gold standard for Ireland in Europe, writes Johnny Waterson. Kurt Walker winning gold for Ireland at the weekend in Minsk. And there's a tennis piece as well from Johnny Waterson. Djokovic primed for defence of his title, they say. World number one remains as hungry for success as ever after a stellar year as Wimbledon gets underway.
The Mirror Sport lead with exciting times. They thought he was mad, but Davy has the last laugh. I'm not sure that they don't think he's mad anymore. But obviously, a huge part of yesterday's thing, I suppose that the whole day was about Davy Fitzgerald nearly in some ways. But it's an incredible victory, and I think Pat Nolan makes the point of where Wexford were when he took over the reins and what he brought them to, and it takes an awful lot of good and very hard work to bring them there.
Yeah, it certainly does. The back page of the Irish Daily Star goes with Purple Rain, Wexford Kings of Leinster, with Davy looking to go further, and Kylie says we are not copycats. He's blasted comparisons. Brian Cody's ruthless Kilkenny machine of the noughties after his Limerick side crushed Tipperary yesterday. This is something that is grinding John Kiley's gears. He says as much that it is something that annoys him a little bit. And Kurt Russell's up Euro goal. So this is the Lisburn bantamweight, as I mentioned. Kurt Walker, 24-year-old, securing goals in Minsk yesterday.
Herald Sport this morning leads with the story of Diarmuid Connolly. He's grounded. Connolly move hits visa trouble. It's the story that was kind of rumbling over the weekend that Diarmuid Connolly has had a technical issue with his ESTA, the visa you need to travel to America. He was due to fly to America on Thursday morning to play with Donegal Boston, who he won a Boston Senior Football Championship last year. And the ESTA was rejected. And I think in that sort of situation, you have to sort of go for an interview in the American Embassy and sort it out. There's conflicting reports. One newspaper says that it's dead in the water, and there's quotes from the Boston chairman in the Mirror. There seems to be some suggestion that if he could get out there within the next 48 hours, he's still eligible to play for Donegal Boston. But whether the kind of red tape can be suitably reeled in the meantime, nobody seems to know. But it's a tough situation for Connolly to be in, because like if you're not going to play with your county, it's obviously a very nice thing to be able to do. Spend the summer in Boston playing football over there and everything that kind of comes with it. And I think once your sanction comes through from Croke Park, you're ineligible for your own club for 30 days. So
right, so you can't play Vincent's either.
So unless the sanction is somehow revoked. But again, I'm not au fait with the technicalities of that one. So
this thing isn't closed yet, is what you're saying, that there could be a window of opportunity
Yeah,
yet.
I think it might be a long shot, but I don't know for certain. As ever with Diarmuid Connolly, there's a million stories going around, but the story of, like Frank Roach has it there in the Herald and the Irish Independent as well. and a couple of other newspapers reported as well. But like the fact that he didn't get away on Thursday and that the move is at the very least in very severe jeopardy is on the money.
Yeah, they can be tricky things, those United States visas. There's, of course, like the statement. I'm not sure you have the Mirror there actually. Yeah. Just to go through what the statement actually is from the Donegal County Board Chairman in New York. So this is Pat Nolan's story on page 48 inside. He says, Diarmuid has a small problem with his ESTA, which Aer Lingus were notified of. The problem is only minor and will be hopefully fixed in the embassy this week. However, our deadline is tomorrow, and unfortunately Diarmuid won't make it over in time. Naturally, we're extremely disappointed because Diarmuid had a great impact in our club last year, both on and off the pitch. We've been made aware of the rumours going around about his being refused entry, but this was not the case. We hope this clears things up, and it does clear things up a little bit because naturally there's tons of conjecture around it. So that's what Paul Martin McDade has said. He is the Donegal Boston GAA chairman. Also in Pat Nolan's piece, he says, having not played for the county since February of last year, Connolly was strongly linked to a return to the Dublin panel this year, but opted against it, despite holding talks with the team management. I'm not sure was that on the record before, that he actually sat down and spoke to the Dublin management. And although the Boston transfer has fallen through, it's still unlikely Connolly will figure for Dublin in the 2019 championship. So
it'll be some story.
It will be some story. I mean,
I think, I don't want to stoke this particular thing, but looking at the rules last night, he is ineligible for his club for the next 30 days, but he's not ineligible for his county.
It would be an amazing turn of fate if the ESTA failure was solely responsible for Dublin winning the 5 in a row.
Yeah, it sure would, but I don't know, like, it's a long way back, I think.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen at this stage, but like, I think management were very, I don't know, it was hopeful, the wrong word, but they were certainly eager to have him back in up until the very last minute. But it's a shame that he's not playing for Dublin. I think for a lot of people would love to see him play for Dublin again, or love to see him play inter-county football. But for Connolly himself, if the move to Boston doesn't happen, it's obviously another shame.
Yeah, for sure. Let's move on to a couple of the UK back pages. The London Times goes with England restore fear factor. Fired up Bairstow hits century to set up win over India and puts hosts back on course for semi-finals. And US accused in World Cup spying row, says Molly Hudson in Lyon. England and the United States have become embroiled in a spying row before their Women's World Cup semi-final after 2 plain-clothed members of American staff were spotted in a private area of the Lionesses team hotel in Lyon yesterday. The FA is believed to be furious at the unwelcome intrusion from the US, who were scoping out the Fourvière Hotel as a potential base for Sunday's final. England, of course, are playing the US in Lyon tomorrow, and they were training at a different location 30 minutes from the hotel while the 2 Americans were being shown around by staff at their hotel. I wonder those staff seen as traitors to the English team. They were not wearing any branded kit, as I've mentioned, and did not show their team credentials to security on their way in. Eventually, the pair were spotted by a member of the FA team. So Jill Ellis, who is the US coach, dismissed the idea that it was arrogant to be scouting a base for a final that her team may not even reach. To be fair, if you're talking about arrogance, this team was celebrating goals when they scored 10, 11, 12, 13 versus Thailand. So I think she should pretty much embrace the arrogance. I would assume everybody is doing that. She said, you have to plan ahead. The only 2 people who are thinking of planning ahead is my administrator, because she has to book all the flights and do all the stuff, and her boss. Everybody else, we don't worry about that, so that is probably why 2 people were there. So in terms of arrogance, that has nothing to do with us. That is planning and preparation for our staff. Phil Neville, meanwhile, says it's poor etiquette. It'll have no bearing on the game. I found it funny, says Phil Neville. So Spygate. It's no Jim McGuinness person up a tree, or it's not really a Leeds United worker with binoculars in the bushes, but still a good one. Nothing better than Spygate.
No. The Sun Sport go with clean sweep. The story of Limerick being, I suppose we didn't even mention it, but it nearly goes without saying that they're League, All-Ireland and Munster champions, which, as a body of work is really incredible. And there's a couple of other interesting bits here. Graham Geraghty's column inside, Cian O'Neill's time as the Kildare team manager is up, which is a question we put to Cian O'Neill on Saturday night in Newport.
Yeah, you were there, of course.
What happens next? And like all managers in that situation, I suppose you're not thinking that it's going to end that night, so it's probably not the best place to announce it, but it did have the feeling of an end. But I just wanted to point out that the Sun's GA supplement The Game, their headline inside is Wex and the Gritty, which I think is quite
top of the morning to you.
Tabloid headline.
Back page of the Racing Post is centre of attention. Defending champion odds on to ease through All England opener, and rejuvenated England 2-7 for semi-final spot. The front page then smiles ahead to Tory the man yet again as he secures Group 1 glory in France with Cornet.
And I have the Guardian, and the lead with fire in his belly. Owen Morgan, he held the fire in Johnny Barstow's belly after the opener's bristling century helped England sweep aside India and put their World Cup campaign back on track. And I'll have to take the Guardian's word for that.
Final paper then, the Daily Telegraph goes with England alive and kicking, Bairstow's brilliant century and Wokes' stunning catch put Morgan's men back on course for semi-finals. We are going to get Liam Griffin in a few moments' time. We do want to focus on a couple of the football stories for now, and we do have Liam McHale coming up on analysis later on, but you spotted some interesting quotes from Kieran McGeeney in the aftermath.
The match of the weekend, football-wise, was definitely in Castlebar on Saturday night. I was in Newbridge, but I got home to see the last half an hour, and then I kind of rewound it because the last half hour was so good to watch the game. And it was a brilliant game, and I felt sorry for Armagh because they're an interesting team. Like, I think, like a lot of people, I'm kind of fascinated by Kieran McGeeney and what it is he brings to that role. And he's been there a long time without bringing them very far, but there was just a feeling this year with the emergence of, Jarly O'Byrnes and Riel O'Neill and Jamar Hall, that they had something about them. But on Saturday night, they reeled Mayo in a couple of times, and they had a couple of really good goal chances as well. There was a couple of great saves by David Clark. But you always just got the feeling that at home in particular, despite who they were missing, the Mayo were just going to be a little bit too kind of crafty to see it out. But Kieran McGeeney had a bit of a moan afterwards, and he said there were at least 10 head injuries in that second half and nobody was taken off. It's very hard to take. We've played in games this year with 6 or 7 minutes injury time with no head injuries, and it was just interesting because on Saturday Eamon Fitzmaurice did a very interesting column about Mayo in the Irish Examiner, and he spoke about how good they are when it comes to gamesmanship, whatever way you want to phrase that particular sentence. But he told a very funny story of a league game there a couple of years ago where Kerry were ahead, but they'd only 13 men on the pitch. And as he was watching the game and Mayo had a free, Barry John Keane ran down from the stand and tipped him on the shoulder. And he pointed out that Diarmuid Connolly was actually hiding behind one of the cameras that were there to the match. So he got Jack Barry's attention and he started pointing back at Jack Barry to go and mark his man. And Jack Barry turned around and saw a television camera and he thought Fitzmaurice was losing his mind. But then just as I think O'Connor was about to pop out from behind the camera and make his run, Jack Barry spotted him and he went back to cover it. But one of the things that Eamon Fitzmaurice pointed out was Mayo and their physicality, how they target opposition players. But one of the things he said was their cynical exploitation of the head injury rule while they're ahead in games. And that column appeared on the morning that Kieran McGeeney his team lost to Mayo. And in truth, for all Armagh's sort of their endeavour and the way they play the game, because they're a good team to watch, you got the feeling that Mayo might just have a bit too much street smarts for them, and I think that's nearly Kieran McGeeney admitting as much this morning. What is the deal with the head injury? Just I have Fitzmaurice's column from the Examiner on Saturday in front of me. He says in relation to Lee Keegan in 2017 in the GPS, he says to have the creativity and now, Stephen, think of that, was remarkable. The checking off the ball, the game management late in games, the claustrophobic marking of key opposition players, the tactical use of the Mayor Forna. I think all of this sort of stuff we understand, and the cynical exploitation of the head injury rule when ahead in games were further indicators of this gamesmanship as they pushed everyone and everything in their desperation to get to the promised land. What are the specific examples here? Well, no, I think it's simply like if there's a collision and my team are ahead, the referee doesn't have to stop the game. Yeah, sure. If it's a head injury, he has to stop. I think the point that Kieran McGeeney's making here, and maybe the unsaid bit in Eamon Fitzmaurice, is when referees stop game for head injuries, they're still only going to put 3, maybe 4 minutes of injury time at the end of it. So if you have, I assume that Kieran McGeeney says there was at least 10 head injuries in the second half. Now I assume he was just exaggerating to prove his point, but maybe there were. But if you have 10 head injuries, the referee's not going to add 10 minutes of injury time. Sure. So I think it's basically just another form of time wasting is what they're both hinting at here. Is that a reason why Mayo got so close to Dublin in recent years? They're the only team who are not able to go with them fitness wise and in large part skill wise, but they're also able to match them in the cynical stakes. Probably, but I that's probably 5% of what they're doing. Sure, but it's an important 5%. He mentions marginal gains. But I think the biggest point that he makes in that was that the physical transformation with the team between 12 and 13, I think he said, and if you look at Dublin, I'd love to get a statistic for Dublin for how much they've beaten teams over the last 5 years in the last 15, 20 minutes of matches. That's when they crucify teams. They make games that are kind of close into massacres. That doesn't happen to Mayo because physically they're absolutely able for Dublin in terms of lasting with them, but also in terms of they can play the game that Dublin are vulnerable to, as in going man to man, because in terms of physical strength, they know they're going to win as many collisions as they lose. So it's a part of it, but I don't think it's as a significant part. But Eamon Fitzmaurice makes the point, and I think Kieran Donaghy made the point last year. He said they'd taken it to a new level. So it's interesting because the dark arts, as we euphemistically call it in GAA, we can see examples of it, but there seems to be almost a code of, players never come out and say, well, they were sledging or they were time wasting or whatever it is. There's kind of an acceptance that it goes on and that every team does it. But it's interesting just to hear that somebody from the inside and as recently relevant as Eamon Fitzmaurice is actually illustrate what it actually all pertains to.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Like, you look at that, you look at what Mayo did on Saturday night, it's very easy to make a case against them this year, but there was just something about the way they managed to get through last night that is so reminiscent of what happened in 2017. All the evidence suggests that there is no way in hell that a squad that is as depleted when it comes to injuries should be able to go on the road again. But the fact of the matter is, if they win next week, and this morning's qualifier draw is absolutely vital for Mayo Summer. Huge. It's huge for everyone, really. It is the biggest draw of the summer. If they manage to get their way into the Super 8s, there's one team you don't want coming to your home ground in that first round of the Super 8s, because Mayo will be the away team, and it is Mayo, because they'll be so battle hardened, they'll be road tested, they'll come flying to that first game. They might peter out during the rest of the Super 8s because they'll be so wrecked, but the thing is, they'll come flying into it. Yeah,
I still think Tyrone are the best of the four teams that played over the weekend, or the four teams that won over the weekend. They played on Saturday night against Kildare, and they Mickey Hart kind of argued the toss with us afterwards that they'd reverted to type from the system that got them so much praise when they beat Dublin in the league and so much scorn when they were hammered by Donegal in the Ulster semi-final. But they set up in such a way that they only played with Cathal McShane inside, and Matty Donnelly played much deeper. So they didn't play with the two guys inside and kick long ball. They actually kicked no ball all day long, except for little pop passes in front of McShane. But the point that my Hart made afterwards is it's not a case of, okay, Tyrone have to change their style. It's that Tyrone have to be able to play in a different way, so as that they're versatile and unpredictable. And that's probably the biggest black mark against Hart in the last couple of years, that when they went in to play Dublin, they did exactly what Dublin expected them to do. And if you do that, they're just going to kill you. And Saturday night, they were so impressive. Like, they just... there's a couple of statistics that stood out. Tyrone scored 217 from play, which is a huge statistic, and it's as damning on Kildare as it is sort of impressive by Tyrone. The second thing is Kildare's starting six forwards only scored 2 points from play, which like there was a couple of heroic performances from their midfielders, Fergal Conway and Kevin Feely, but even their points were kind of, magic scores under pressure outside of the boot, 40 yards. So the simple act of working the ball into the forwards and taking a score, they couldn't do it because Tyrone defended in such a way. Like, they look like they're so kind of composed in that system. Nobody gets sucked into making a tackle. They maintain the same distance from each other, and it's up to you. Like, you can throw the ball around 70 yards out from goal, but like sooner or later you're going to get a bit of an itch to have a go here, and when you do, they're just going to turn you over every time. And I thought they were really, really impressive, and we all assumed that Tyrone were out of the All-Ireland picture because of what Donegal did to them in the All-Ireland semi-final, but I think they're actually more dangerous now because they've developed a different way of playing, and if they can switch between it in games, I still think they're incredibly dangerous. I think more than Mayo, Tyrone are the team to avoid this morning for the four teams who lost their provincial finals. Right, okay. We will have instant reaction to that draw when it takes place shortly after 8:30 this morning. One last story I want to bring you. It's because Rafa Benitez has released a statement to Newcastle fans. He says, "Dear Newcastle United fans, thank you for 3 fantastic, exciting and at times challenging years. What we've had here, your support, your affection and your passion has been unbelievable for me. St James's Park has been always a special. The 5-1 win against Tottenham, 15th of the 5th, 2016, was, who puts that in the middle of the statement, was so emotional that since that day I've always felt as though I belonged at Newcastle, and I thank you for making me feel so welcome and at home. Thank you to everyone at the club who has helped the team, and of course to the fine players who grew and fought with us, and to the staff, one of the best I've ever shared time with.
From winning the championship to our 2 seasons in the Premier League, fans, staff and players have all been united. I wanted to stay, but I didn't just want to sign an extended contract. I wanted to be part of a project. Unfortunately, it became increasingly clear to me that those at the top of the club did not share the same vision. I'm very sad about that, but I do not regret for one moment my decision to come to Tyneside, and I'm very proud about what we achieved together. I will always have you in my heart. Best of luck for the future. Come on, Toons. So that probably sheds a bit of light on his departure from Newcastle United, that he wanted a bit more of a long-term thing, and they saw him as a solution for the next couple of years. Right, it is 8:05 on this Monday morning on OTBAM. This is the Sports Breakfast Show on Off the Ball, and OTBAM is powered by Avantcard, sponsored by Avantcard, I should say, which is powered by MasterCard. We're talking Wexford hurling next on OTBAM. We'll be back with Davy Fitz and Liam Griffin next.
The Sport Ireland campus Blanchardstown is the home of Irish sport, not just for our athletes but for you in the community. Check out our amazing offers for families with kids camps, sport academies and birthday parties. Or for adults, why not join our gym with a 50-metre pool? Or your club, school, friends can book one of our world-class indoor or outdoor facilities, including our brand new field sport covered pitches. Find out more on nationalsportscampus.ie.
Join Bruce Betting now for a risk-free first bet up to €100. That's right. New Irish accounts can enjoy a risk-free first bet up to €100. So if your first bet loses, we'll refund your stake with a free bet. Now that's giving you more. Bruce Betting. In store, online and now on your phone. T's and C's apply. Please gamble responsibly. See dunlewy.net.
Davy Fitzgerald, Leinster final winner with Wexford. How does that feel?
I'm just a lucky individual that to experience this with a great bunch is unreal, and I'm delighted. They're such a hard-working bunch. You have no idea what we put them through. We put them through a lot to mentally be able for a day like today, and they were well able for it, and I think we were deserving winners on the day.
To me, it looked like obviously there was a battle on the field, but there was also a battle of wits again between two managers, the top of their game on the sideline.
Today was tactically crazy, and people mightn't realise what's going on. There's a lot of stuff going on there today, even on puck outs, even on other stuff. There was a lot of work done, and it's nice to come out the right side of it, and I'm so happy for the people of Wexford that they get to experience, because there's been 1 or 2 times where things haven't gone our way, and they haven't thrown the knife in your back, or they haven't been at you, they have stuck with you, and it's very important if you get a crowd to stay with you, you have a great chance of doing something.
Yeah, actually at half-time myself and Dahi Regan were discussing those puck outs, and Dahi was saying, looking at it, that it looked like you had won that war, that perhaps Kilkenny hadn't expected your strategy. Yeah, we changed it. It's actually, there's a lot of stuff in it, and between theirs and ours, and I'm just happy it worked out today, and trust me, it was tough going out there. I know, I was watching you. We were all kind of worried for you, watching you, and I was watching it full time. You did the same thing as you did in 2013 when you won that All-Ireland final, down onto your knees. It's like your body can't even hold the joy. It's there's a lot of pressure, a lot of stuff, and I actually wanted these boys to win so much. They've been so loyal to me. They would, if I asked them to do anything, they would do it. And if you get a team like that, as I did in Clare with 13, you have a chance of doing something, and I love doing things you're not meant to do. I enjoy that more than anything. You like winning yourself though, not just the lads? Every now and again, yeah. I'll let you off to celebrate, Davy, because I know you want to go and enjoy with your team. This is big for Wexford. You have no idea. You have no idea what it means to put smiles on people's faces, and I'm happy for them. We'll enjoy it a few days and then we'll think about what's next.
Davy Fitzgerald there, speaking to Maura Trassa in the aftermath of yesterday's Leinster final win. Davy Fitz, Grand Slam winner, I should say. He's won the All-Ireland, he's won the National League, he's won the Munster Championship, he's won the Leinster Championship. The only manager to do it, Conor. Yeah, and do you know what? Davy Fitz, he does come in for an awful lot of stick, and I heard some people saying yesterday, he's making this win all about himself. But they have to remember, when Davy Fitzgerald's involved in the team, and the team doesn't do something, if they underperform, if they don't achieve success, he's a lightning rod for all the criticism. Yeah. It all flows through him, But he's that kind of character, he takes it all very personally, and you can see him on the sideline. He's incredibly animated. He's not one of these kind of modern managers who there's almost a passive aggression in the way that he kind of goes about his business. He should take it personally, though. I mean, this is something that he pours a huge amount of his life into, as we know, the travelling he does to Wexford, the travelling some of the players have done to Wexford to get him to commit. I mean, there seems to be a genuine bond there too. Yeah. I know from just interviewing a couple of Wexford players, even on a superficial level, when they're trying to convey what it means, players will always tell you they love their manager, but we got the impression last year after
some of the Wexford players had made the journey to 6 Mile Bridge to ask him to continue, because like last year was a huge disappointment. The way they went out last year suggested the thing was already starting to unravel. And after 2 years, he said himself, "You've no idea what I put these lads through." There's only so many times you can put lads through something like that before they get annoyed with you. But there does seem to be a genuine warmth flowing in both directions. And if you can drill lads and put them through hell and they can still retain an affection for you, it's a great combination.
Yeah, I'd love to know what he actually did put them through, because that quote did stick out to me as well yesterday. I'm delighted to say we've got Liam Griffin on the line. Good morning to you, Liam.
Good morning, how are you? I'm hoarse, don't be surprised anyway.
I can imagine. So,
yeah.
Limerick are Munster champions, Wexford are Leinster champions. It feels like 1996 all over again, Liam.
Yeah, you might say that one more time with Wexford or what?
Congratulations, they're Leinster champions, and it's not a dream.
Yeah, but we're Leinster champions on the double, which is much more significant for me, you know. But anyway, go on, sorry.
Well, let's actually start with that then, the sort of amazing day it was for Wexford yesterday. 1985, the last time they'd won a minor title. 2004, the last time they'd won a senior title. The roar in Croke Park yesterday after the minor win was huge, as big as a minor cheer as I've ever seen at Croke Park. This was an incredible day to be from Wexford.
Yeah, no, this was a magic day. You know, on your progression, as you try to come forward, there's a lot of ifs, buts, mice happens, and I think it all came together yesterday. There's a plan going on in Wexford since 2012, and I think, you know, that's an important part of this as well. So it's been worked on, you know, very well. The first administration to deal with it dealt with it partly, and the new administration has dealt with it completely, and it's made a massive difference. And that's where the minor is coming from. But, like, the bottom line is, as far as I'm concerned, and I know this might sound a bit strange to some people, winning Leinster senior hurling for me doesn't mean an awful lot unless we have something coming behind to sustain us. Because if you look at Offaly, and I have great time for Offaly over the years, they are in free fall as a result, obviously, of not building on what they had. And so were we guilty of that. We didn't know what we stood for a long time in terms of where we were going in sport. So, like, we have a plan now, and it's working. And this is to see that work yesterday is absolutely amazing. Now, go on from the minors. We have a few outstanding young players in that minor team now who are very skillful and really, really good. To match the likes of Rory O'Connor and these fellas going forward, and Paddy Foley and Ogie, and all the lads that we have already. Now, go back to the senior team. Davy has come in for criticism. Like, Davy's, as I said to you the last time I was speaking here, Davy, none of us are going to change Davy. I certainly don't want to change him. I just think that he's doing a fantastic job. He was the perfect fit for Wexford. The perfect fit. The right man wanted a job, and the right team wanted a man. And that's what happened. Now, Liam Dunn had done tremendous work. He's a great friend of mine. He'd done tremendous work, and he brought it to a certain level. And he was disappointed when he didn't continue. But he was part of the evolution of the process, and he should take great credit for that. And that's it. So now we are who we are with Davy. And, like, Davy has really, really achieved with this group, and they really wanted to achieve themselves. You have got Ogie there, Liam McGovern. Liam McGovern has had 2 cruciate ligaments done. Has 2 cruciates, and he's had a hip surgery. And he's back in the fold again this year and playing a really major part in all that. And he wanted to win something badly. He epitomises that kind of approach. Now, the other great thing we have is a lot of intelligent players. We've got a lot of really intelligent players, and the big goal matters to them, and that's what's making it possible. And Davy then has his style, which is a different style in terms of coaching, and that's the perfect match. Now, would he ever achieve? No, they won't. Yes, they will. I don't like the way they play. I would love to be playing the modern game, because the way it's played, except for those scrums, they're a disaster, they're crap, they shouldn't be part of our game, but that's part of the price we pay for the modern game. Now, I'm going on all day here now, but I'm just saying that's just where we are. And it's a wonderful place to be. And what I'm feeling greatest about this morning is the future is bright for Wexford hurling. But the future looks to me to be sustainable. We've a lot more work to do on this plan, but I think we are coming back. We are arriving back on stage. We're only coming to arrive back on stage where we should be, and we should have been for many years, because we're not given our own market, which is hurling, is what they want. The market we haven't been fulfilling that. Now we are, and now we look like we're poised for success, but only if we work hard and go forward again. Now, that's a long bloody speech.
Not at all. It's brilliant, Liam. Let's focus on the present for a moment and look at these scenes from Gorey yesterday. I think you sent out this video. This is absolute Incredible. This is your own footage, Liam, is it, that you sent in? You were here yesterday.
I had my grandchild at the match with me yesterday, so I went back through Gorey. Now that I didn't take that because I got in before the madness. I just went in to see a flavour of what it's going to be like in Gorey. I came in off the motorway, and I knew it was going to be massive. And like that's what you see there. It's just actually fantastic, and all the way up along the streets in Gorey, like. You know what? They wouldn't do that for a World Cup in some of the countries in the world, so it's fantastic and it's great to see because that's what the people want. They want to see those days and they're entitled to get them because we have the resources to do it, to be honest. It's just putting it all together. So that's what it is. I think it's fantastic, those scenes.
And it just makes it so much more pleasurable given the pain and given the recent pain. I mean, Brendan O'Brien had the statistic this morning that 10 of the Wexford players that featured 4 years ago when Kilkenny beat them by 24 points, 10 players still around from then. Like, that is incredible. That is not just a new generation of players, which it is as well. This is also a changing and the improvement of a current crop too.
Yes, it is, but there's a few things that come together. The big thing, the standout thing is Davy. That's the standout thing. You know, whether people like to accept that, that's the standout thing. The plan is the important, foundation stone. That's working. Davy worked. But the great thing is we have a bunch of guys who are prepared to knuckle down and do this because they wanted to do it. The desire was there. And their persistence is what you have to say. This is persistence personified. And then the belief that Davy gave them and the work that Liam done, all that's come together there now. It just doesn't happen overnight. But I think that Davy, you can say what they like about Davy. He has some record, right? He has some record. And if that's the price we pay for Davy losing the heading on time, what the hell about it? Like, what the hell is the problem with that? Like, this is this is rural sport, and this is bullfighting by a different standard. Like, we're just ordinary rural people, like, and you get out there and you do it and you second well get on with it, and that's it. And that's what he's done. And that's it. What the hell more do we want? Like, analysing him to death, and he said this and he said that. Look at, we won Leinster. You said it. We are the Leinster champions, and we are on the double. And that's the first time since 1970. I thought it was the first time since 68, but it's the first time since 1970. You know, and that's not. We shouldn't have been waiting this long, but we are, and we are where we are now, and it's just amazing. And some of the performances yesterday were just absolutely outstanding. And I said to you the last day when that. You know, there was criticism there, and Dahi was given out about it, the way he was treating reporters. For Christ's sake, will you stop? Reporters are hardy buggers, like. So, from that point of view, I said at that stage that there was a cameo in the second half against Galway that day. That Davy, you could see it all coming together. Now, that needed to come together for an entire Leinster final, and parts of it came together against Dublin, and parts of it came together in Wexford Park. A lot of it in Wexford Park in the drawing game. But yesterday, they did a complete performance. Now, Rory had a brilliant game, and that, I'd say he should have went for a goal just before half-time, and I'd say he was told when he went in, the next time you get that clear, you keep going. And he got the penalty. But three outstanding players in the last few minutes caught three high balls that were absolutely vital. Lee Shane, Liam Ryan and Matthew Hanlon caught three fantastic high balls that could go missed. But if you look back over the video, those three catches were absolutely vital on top of Rory's penalty and the conversion by Mark Fanning.
Liam, just on you talk about the plan that's after clicking into gear, like there's an awful lot of counties, and you mentioned Offaly, but even in football as well, they're in a situation where they have a huge amount of enthusiasm for the game, just as Wexford do for hurling, and they have a lot of people involved in the county, but can't actually figure out what the first step is to kind of getting the thing going again. Could you tell us, like, what did that entail?
Well, what it entailed with us was we undertook a study of Wexford and where it stood. In fact, it was my own son did it, like, and he was doing his masters at the time, and we needed someone to do something, and he did this. He did a study, and it was an analytical study of Wexford hurling, and there was criticism of it in senses, but as he said at the time, look keep reading the facts. Don't just keep trying to ask me to change the facts. The facts are telling us we didn't win colleges since 72. We haven't won minors since 85. We have been neglecting the game. I can't help that. I'm just telling you the facts. So the plan laid out what we needed to do and what the suggestions were. And that's been followed by the previous administration in part. But this was never going to happen unless the county board embraced it. So the county board has to embrace the plan, and they have embraced it, and they really have worked in behind that plan. Now, it's been difficult for them to embrace some stuff. It needs finance, it needs resources and all of those things. But that's where that evolved from. And the plan is down. There's a blueprint that was written on it, and there was a group involved in a hurling advisory committee, and everybody got together to try and put something together. But does that mean we're there? Not at all. We haven't even hit a home run yet. We've got to keep working on the plan. And it's, you know what? It's an evolving process, and you can't stop. And the GAA is not good at that, at county board level, because the structures of the association doesn't make it. It's always about today, and and it has to be about tomorrow more so than today. And that's been a major input for Wexford. But that's not to take from the fantastic performance yesterday, because we should be concentrating on that and of the minors' performance yesterday. And I have gone to Croke Park for a long time. I was gone out of the country from the end of the 60s right through to the 70s and missed some of the periods. But I have watched free takers for Wexford over the years. And while Lee Chin did a fantastic job in his frees yesterday, a young guy, a minor, AJ Redmond, he actually hit frees from every part of Croke Park and put him over the bar one, which he got the very first one, an awkward angle. A complete conversion, non-stop. A 17-year-old standing up in Croke Park doing that. We haven't seen that ever. And I saw some of the great free takers that we had, Ned Buggy, Podge Kehoe, and all of those fellas. I never saw them have a strike rate like that. And that is absolutely, for me, like a sun busting out of its seams. Because that's a Kilkenny trait. And this was now a Wexford trait yesterday. And then Lee comes in the senior game, missed one free as well. Like, that is monumental in hurling. And that is some kind of chink to see. Bloody hell, we are arriving when we can do that. And a 17-year-old kid, fantastic.
Like, it all kind of plays into this idea that, the bottle of that Wexford have is something incredible now. And you mentioned some of the players there, the family ties they have, the weight of history on this team, the weight of Croke Park on this team, the weight of even recent free-taking failings on the part of Lee Chin. That was all dispelled yesterday on the biggest stage, when the circumstances were at their most potentially grave, when they could have potentially had fingers pointed at them for not showing up in Croke Park yet again. They all showed up.
Yes, but the great thing is, the fantastic thing is that both teams turned up. I was involved in helping out with minor teams over the years, and we have produced some absolutely brilliant minor teams. Every bit as good as that yesterday's minor team, really. But we didn't do it on the big day in Croke Park. We kind of choked. My own lads were involved in some of them. We choked, and we collectively choked. And that's the weight of history that we've had to come through, and these youngsters got over the line on that yesterday. And then the seniors setting the example. So the example that's set from the two teams yesterday, like, that has to be built on, not just wallowed in. It has to be built on after we wallow for a few days, and we will wallow. But it's just so uplifting, because we are a hurling county, and yes, we play a lot of football too, and I'm not against any code. I'm in favour of football and hurling, but everybody has to get their own act together. And serious decisions have to be made about hurling and football over time. You can't play a county minor in hurling and football and be good at both of them, and that's a nonsense. You just can't do it with kids to say, right, you're going to be on the county minor team and you're going to be on the county minor and hurling football team. I played them both in my time. That's okay. These were once-off matches, knockouts, then that's it. You're done and dusted. So under the modern system, you have to embrace that, and some of those decisions have to be made, and they don't go down well, because parents want their children on every team, like. But unfortunately, you can't do that for the greater good of the entire process, and that's also fundamental to the system, and fundamental to progress as well. So look, a lot of things need to come together, and it did happen yesterday in Croke Park. And look, I'm on a high anyway. I don't know what I'm on today except for just pure hurling. But anyway, it's just great to see it.
You mentioned a few minutes ago, Liam, about Wexford and their intelligent players. I'm interested in whether they're intelligent players because of Davy Fitzgerald, or because Davy Fitzgerald is having extra success with them because they're naturally intelligent players.
I would say that Davy Fitzgerald, look, at Davy is infectious, and that's it. And when he comes in, he's so passionately involved. He preaches hurling, and that's it. He's not preaching advanced science or applied maths. He's talking about hurling. These boys are emotional intelligence, and they're also very good intelligence. A lot of those are very good academically, by the way, a lot of them. So from that perspective, like, they want to talk hurling. He comes in with a hurling plan. They're prepared to follow him to hell if it needs to be that way, because they're ambitious. So as I said, it's a perfect fit, and because of that it's an emotional fit, really, isn't it? Because they then have the intelligence to say, okay, that's what has to be done, and we're going to try it. We've tried everything else, we're going to try this. And that's what they've done. And they've tried it with Liam Dunn as well, by the way, and they gave him a huge commitment as well. But, that was just part of the evolutionary process, and that's it. So I think that matching of the two together is just what fits. And also, the game plan. Everyone said that Wexford were going to be under pressure in Croke Park with the wide open spaces. I genuinely felt, and I thought, hold on a minute now. We've got Ogie. We've got Dee O'Keefe, who was immense yesterday. We've got Rory O'Connor. We have Conor Mack, not the fastest player, but a player that is if he gets a bit of space, can do a lot of work. So I felt that would suit our forwards very well, and it did. It suited our forwards very well because they are they're very speedy, some of them, but they're also very good to run the angles and take the ball off the shoulder and get the timing right, and that's down to Davy as well. So it's the coming together of everything, and that's and the big desire to make it happen. And by the way, there's a little cameo there yesterday, which is absolutely brilliant as far as I was concerned. Rory O'Connor got a ball, stuck it in Jack's hand, and Jack stuck it over the bar from the middle of the field. So that was just a beautiful moment. And then the two of them jumping up on top of each other and so over. These are just the sights that you lap up when you're watching from Croke Park, and that's the future as well for us. So, but the persistence and the belief in the intelligence and the Davy plan, it all worked. And then the absolute conversion of the frees. And Kevin Foley was immense there yesterday, the sweeper. He is absolutely a wonderful little hurler. I've had him since he was a minor and so forth, and he was more like a Kilkenny type hurler with the visionary and the stick work and all of those things. And it's been a great move to put him in as the sweeper because he's got all of the attributes necessary. He's got ice in his veins as well. He doesn't panic, and he's able to look up and he's able to do it under pressure.
The long-term future is clearly unbelievably bright for Wexford after everything we've seen yesterday. What about the short-term future, Liam? Where is the season going to end up?
Look, you don't put your lid on ambitions. I mean, I would hope that we can go further. The system again, like we're going to meet some team is going to come in from another couple of games. I would prefer if we wound up playing the semi-final in a couple of weeks' time, and it was a straight move to meet the team who would just come out of Munster or whatever, the beaten team if it's that. So, but we have to wait now for the semi-final. And, I would hope that we can do really, really well in the semi-final. I wouldn't like to think that the Leinster final is the end of it, but I think we have to be realistic and say we're still evolving, and we still have to be, we have to tread carefully, and we can't get carried away with ourselves. And above all, we've got to stay modest in our own approach to it from here on in and say, right, that's done, it's in the drawer. Lock it up, leave it there, let's get on with it, and let's see where we go next. And I think with an attitude of, okay, we start all over again. We're now in a new campaign, don't forget. This is a whole new season as far as I'm concerned. Leinster's over, have a good time for the rest of the week, drop it, forget about it and move on. That's what I think will happen, and I think Davy will get that to happen. So I'm not going to start saying what's going to happen, but let's see what does happen, that's it. But anyway, whatever happens, I just think Davy has done magic with us. 2 Leinster finals in 3 years. We won it. And above all, I think I said it the last day, we have young lads. And this is obviously a really important factor in the evolution of sport. Rory O'Connor, Paddy Foley, Kevin Foley, Liam Ryan, and most of those guys know nothing, only playing first division hurling. And it's made all the difference to them because it lifts you when you're in there. And Davy got us into that first division, and that was important. That was important in the evolution of this team as well. There was criticism of Davy for killing the team too early in the season. Listen, you've got to actually climb the ladder. There's no point in trying to go from 0 to 70 just to satisfy the people. He set the right target, get into the first division, which he did. That's a huge, monumental achievement because that's a great place for developing the players. Then we got to a Leinster final, didn't do well. Galway beat us well that day, but a big learning lesson. And now we come along and turn it back around, and that's down to Davy and winning the Leinster final this year again. So, look, it's all good news. That's it for the moment. But look, it's only good news. It's a matter of keeping it going. That's it.
Liam, it's been great hearing from you this morning. I think everybody's got a smile on their face after listening to you speak. Enjoy the rest of the celebrations, and thanks a million for taking the call.
And thanks a million. I got to see you, and hopefully we'll be talking again.
Hopefully. Liam Griffin there on the line after Wexford 123, Kilkenny 23 points in Croke Park yesterday. Right, Off the Ball in partnership with My Taxi is hosting a very special event on the 4th of July. That's this Thursday in the Alex Hotel, and you can be there. Some brilliant guests on the night will include Irish legend Paul McGrath, former Irish international Jamie Heaslip, performance coach with the Dublin Hurlers Cliona O'Connor, and former world champion Andy Lee. This is an exclusive off-air event, so the only way you can see it is by being there. Tickets are free, but you must register and show proof on the day, either by printing tickets or having them downloaded on your phone. You can check out offtheball.com/events to get your ticket to the event with our partners, My Taxi Business, soon to become Free Now Business. Register today for a free business account. Right, it is coming up to 8:30 on this Monday morning. Liam McHale is joining us next here on OTBAM. First though, here's James Horan speaking to Maura Trassa for Off the Ball, and he's rejecting the notion that the county's training sessions were behind his side's unfortunate spate of injuries.
If you're reporting stuff, surely you'll do a bit of research yourself. Come to training. We've never stopped anyone coming to training, lads. I think it's crazy.
Why did the marker say?
Come to training.
I'll come.
People come commenting on stuff, and it's absolutely ridiculous. We play a games-based approach at our training sessions where we play games, and it's a team sport with 30 people on the field, so there's going to be injuries. So some of the commentary that has been reported back to me is we have a good laugh at it when we hear it about it, to be honest.
Does it annoy you? Does it annoy you, James?
What's that?
Does it annoy you?
I think if people are making comments, that try and get some detail or try and get some evidence behind it.
James Horan there speaking to reporters after the game on Saturday night in Castlebar. Liam McHale, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Owen. How are you?
Very well, thanks. He's not happy there, James Horan, at the idea that perhaps the training is responsible for some of Mayo's recent injuries.
Yeah, and we've heard these rumours that there's a bit of dissension in the camp, and some of the senior players are not happy. But like Lee Keegan's injury now looks like a bad ankle injury. Harrison was the same, so you can't really relate them to the type of training they're doing. And once you go into the qualifier zone, you wouldn't be doing a hell of a lot of training anyway. You'd be you're playing pretty much week in, week out, and you get a recovery session in, you get hopefully a good practice in it, and then you have a game at the weekend. So I wouldn't really have anything to do with. I wouldn't put the training sessions down to that. I would imagine, though, with the influx of young players coming into the group, that their in-house games would be very physical and very aggressive, and maybe some of the injuries have come from that. Young Rowan's injury. Diarmuid O'Connor's wrist. Those type of injuries might be physicality injuries. Fellas really pushing hard to make their plays. But a lot of this stuff is just unfortunate. And Mayo are banged up now at the moment, and they're struggling a little bit. But as they have in the past, when they're showing their heart, and they played a very good Armagh side at the weekend. They were completely in control of the game, and for some strange reason, they seem to lose their way. Had a couple of really bad turnovers and let Armagh back into it, but they found a way to win, and they're in the draw again this morning. So you have to hand it to them. They've got great heart and great desire to make it to the Super 8s.
Liam, just on that the accusation or the sort of intimation that it's the physicality in the A's versus B's games that is causing these injuries. Like what's the alternative? Like, what do people expect to do? That they have an A's versus B's game and fellas kind of mind each other over the course of those games? Because it'd strike you that injuries happen regardless of what you play. I think there was a GPA study that said that there was 9 training sessions to every inter-county match that a player plays. So by the law of averages, you're 9 times more likely to be injured in training than they are in matches. What is the sort of local feeling on that, or what specifically?
I don't think there's anything you can do. You do tackling drills, fellas can get hurt. You do you play in-house games. You play 7-a-sides. And as a coach or a manager, you want them to be aggressive. You want them really to go after each other, because you're trying to condition yourself for that next game. And a lot of teams will play defensive systems now, get men around the ball. If you're bringing it to the tackle, there's 2 or 3 around you, you're going to get hit, you're going to get turned over, and the ball is gone. So everybody's practicing in a certain way to be ready for these games, these challenges that lie ahead. And I would say to the Mayo fans and the people that are talking about these things, just to get on with it, because that's what the players do. These fellas are hurt now to get their treatment or surgery, and to try their best to get back. And the next man up has to come in and do his job, and that's what Mayo are doing. In fairness, it's just that people were wondering what's taking it so. How is it taking so long for Ciarán O'Connor to come back? We're wondering, is he fit enough or is he not? He showed the last day now that he's in fairly decent shape, and that 15 or 20 minutes he had the last day will stand to him for next week game. But these guys, these fellas are very good players now, and they're inter-county players, and nobody's going to risk their career. And you've team doctors and physios and everything have this down to a fine art, and nobody anymore. We used to always come back too early and pull hamstrings again and and hurt ourselves again. But these players now don't do that anymore because of the medical teams that they have behind them. So the fans and the managers and these guys and these people have to be patient with the players, you know.
One of the criticisms of Mayo over the last few years, Liam, has been the over-reliance on some of the older players. How would the next generation come in, and more importantly, how would they lead the line when it comes down to it? Saturday night proved, you look at some of the players that with big performances, the likes of Darren Cohen, the likes of Fionn McDonough, these are the lads that you might have been pointing at before and saying, where is the leadership in these players? Can they actually lead the line? Turns out they actually can, Liam, and this is incredibly encouraging, albeit they've got a spate of injuries to go along with it.
Yeah, but the big problem this year was losing to Roscommon. You know, we won't cash over again, but they kicked 16 wides that kicked 4 at the goalie's hand and had something like 42 attacks. They threw that game away, and then they had to try and rebound and recover from that. And, you know, on top of that, then losing some players, some key players, has really hurt them. But you're right. I thought young Corn probably was man of the match. I thought that when Mayo was struggling a little bit midway through the second half, he pretty much took the game over. Young McDonough was very, very good, very aggressive. Really turned the ball over a few times, but you know he really goes at the defence. And these guys are playing well. I thought Mikey Murray did fine. Young Tracy did well, so they're going to get better. They're going to improve all the time. It's a real pity for young Rowan that he's out, because he needs these games to be improving and you know and getting better and getting used to the level all the time. But those guys were great last Saturday night, and they did get them over the line. But I just guess the biggest worry James Horner will have was when Kevin McLaughlin got the goal. We're in control of the game, lads. Let's see this out now and win by 7 or 8. Extend this 5-point lead. Let's win by 8. Maybe get 1 or 2 of the senior players a 10-minute break. But they had them couple of bad turnovers, let Armagh into the game, and you know it got very tricky then towards the end. You know,
those turnovers, Liam, they were kind of nearly critical, weren't they? Like they were able to orchestrate a short kick out from David Clark and win possession of the ball, and you're thinking there's the hard part done, and then all of a sudden they were turning the ball over coming out of defence. Like you can't keep doing that and keep expecting to win in these sort of situations. Is that the sort of worry going forward?
Well, that will catch you for sure. And you remember the hand that David Clark got on the Jamie Clark low shot to the corner, and then he pushed another one there. I can't remember which one he pushed. Another Armagh guy wide and forced him to kick it high and over the bar. So there were 2 great goal chances, and if one or both of them went in, Mayo were in a big hole. But I'd say they will address that. But you know, the shooting in front of goal and the shot selection in front of goal had improved. In fairness, it got way better from the New York and Roscommon games, but now, and it's difficult when you're missing a lot of your senior players. But now that game management, when you're in control of the game with 4 or 5 points up like they were the last day, you have to have composure, and you have to get the ball into the right guys' hands that will make those right decisions. And that would be the thing that they're working on now. Obviously, they don't get much time to work on it, but they'll be the things that they'll be addressing this week and see can they improve in that.
The game management on the line, though, I guess you could give credit to Mayo for, because you look at Andy Moore and taking off at the time, certainly my eyebrows were raised. I was wondering, would this pay off or not? Kevin McLaughlin coming on clearly did work. You look at the shift they made in the kickouts, going short after Armagh got a bit of success off the long kickouts early in the game. So James Horne deserves credit in how he reacted to the specific threats from Armagh.
Oh yeah, and let's remember now, Armagh are a very good team. You know, Armagh played fantastic football there for big chunks of the game, and like Derry, which was an awkward game last week, they're a common team, and if they can stick together and get over these losses and learn from these hard losses that they've had the last 2 years, I think Diarmuid Connolly is doing a great job. They looked awesome. They looked like that vintage Kerry team with Declan Sullivan and Tomas O'Shea and Darragh O'Shea in the first 15 minutes, and in the last 15 minutes they looked awesome as well. They intricate foot passes, you know, 25-year deep passes, fellas coming off the shoulder. They looked really good, and they were very good for the most part, but they were a little bit naive at the end. And Mayo bet a good team. We better not forget that. Mayo bet a good team that's coming, and has coming for the last 2 or 3 years under Kieran McGaney. So I think the biggest concern Mayo will have is that those, when they're in control of the game, instead of winning by 8, as I said earlier on, they had some bad decisions, but a little bit nervous, few turnovers that cost them, nearly, but didn't. And they're in the draw now. But the other big issue outside in the turnovers is the fact that the panel now is getting well shook. You know, there's a lot of really key players missing. A lot of players trying to get back. I know Kelly O'Connor is a big addition back. But he got 20 minutes. But don't be. But no supporters shouldn't be expecting him now to go out and kick 11 points next weekend. So, but they're there and they'll be happy about it. They'll dust themselves down to recover, and they're going to give it a good shot again at the weekend, no matter who they get.
We're going to get your live reaction, Liam, as the qualifier draw happens. Just one more thing on Saturday night. It's kind of obvious to say, considering the league campaign he had and the season he's had to date, but Aidan O'Shea is clearly playing the football of his life. What's the main reason for this?
Well, I'd say he's in shape. He looks like he's trimmed down. I think, when he plays midfield, I think at the highest level, he gets fatigued at stages in the game, especially in the last 20 minutes of the game, and fades out. That's not happening this year. He's an influence throughout the game. He's an influence now more defensively than offensively. I would prefer to see him playing further up the field, because when he gets the ball in around the D, he draws a lot of fouls. He can score himself, but he's playing deeper. That's the strategy. That's the role he's doing, and he's doing it well. And but I would say we all know, like, he's an absolute beast of a man. But we all know that he has real good football skills in him. But like some years, I felt that he wasn't in the shape that he should have been in to play at the level that we're getting into now in the next couple of weeks on.
There's been last year, I suppose, the accepted wisdom, Liam, about Mayo and where they went wrong was they couldn't keep losing in Connacht and having to go this arduous route through the qualifiers, and that caught up with them in Newbridge. They're in the same position this year, albeit they're just one victory away from the Super 8s. If they keep going, Liam, like, they'll have to play 4 games over the next 5 or 6 weeks, and as you say, like, the injuries are mounting up. Like, can you see them surviving, or like they're going to have to thrive even when they get into the Super 8s? Like, is that a big worry now?
Well, what we said earlier, I believe, is 100% right. Losing to Roscommon was a disaster, and we've talked about it on the show earlier on in the year. That was a big blow. That was a knockout punch nearly for the team. Veteran teams that are trying to win an All-Ireland or get into the All-Ireland semi-finals and finals cannot be going that route. The key now is next weekend. If they get over next weekend, with the players that are banged up and the players that are injured, I think if they win next weekend, I think they'll get into the All-Ireland semi-finals for sure.
Quick word on Tyrone, Liam, because it seems that they've found their way at the start of the championship, lost their way at the business end of the Ulster Championship, and seem to be finding their way again. A good win in Newbridge for them on Saturday night.
I think, Joe, they were beaten by a very good Donegal team. And in that Donegal-Tyrone match, Tyrone had 2 very good goal chances in the first half, and they didn't take them. And there were 4 or 5 points because of that all the time. And they just could not get into that game, because there's no team in the country that can manage a game better than Donegal when they have the lead. They're as accomplished and as cool and as together as a team you will get, especially when they have the lead. So I don't know. I thought they were very good in the second half of the league. I thought they were good in the Ulster Championship. I thought they were a lot closer to Donegal than people think. They had 2 massive, I remember, great goal chances, and they didn't take either of them, which is not like them. And again, as you said, they've been chipping along, and they had a big win again at the weekend against a very athletic, a very decent Kildare side. So I think they're, I know it didn't look great losing by 5 or 6 points to Donegal, but Donegal are good. They had their chances. They didn't take them, and nobody's going to want to get Tyrone in the draw, that's for sure.
Who would you, from a Mayo point of view, Liam, Galway are the obvious team that I'd imagine that Mayo don't want to have to go through the headache of avoiding. But is there a team to avoid for Mayo just as this draw is about to be made?
I would say that Galway now would really get the dander up, and then Exeter Pains that are there wouldn't be long going. And I'd say, if Damien Cormack is not back, Galway look very bland without Damien Cormack. They seem to be playing young Shane Walsh and trying to play him in centre half forward and full forward, depending on circumstances. And they're just not the same without Damien. We all know that Damien is an explosive full forward, nearly unmarkable, and without him they just don't seem to be the same. And I'd say Mayo players now and Mayo fans would be delighted to see a local derby between Mayo and Galway.
We've had celebrations in the producer's box here from Meath man Tommy Rooney as Clare have been pulled out of the hat to face Meath in the round 4 qualifier. So a good draw, you'd say, from Meath, despite Clare's good win against Westmeath at the weekend. Cork against Laois. is the other tie. We've got Mayo Galway. Mayo Galway is at a tie of the round. We've got Mayo Galway. I'm extremely excited about that as a Kerry man, Liam, because you'll be coming down to Killarney for the first round of the Super 8s if you beat Galway. And Cavan against Tyrone is the other draw. So Cork Laois, Meath Clare, Cavan Tyrone, Galway Mayo is the round 4 qualifier draw. What are your initial thoughts of that?
Well, first of all, the Meath boys shouldn't be singing and dancing with that draw against Clare, because, again, I have the utmost respect for Clare. What they've achieved, lads, in the last 3 or 4 years has been absolutely remarkable. Meath, whilst they showed a lot of heart and a lot of guts, especially in the first half of that Leinster final, they were put aside very, very, very meekly, and Clare will be really looking forward to that challenge. The Cavan Tyrone one it probably is a disaster for Cavan. They would have been hoping to keep away from Tyrone, and the Cork will be very happy with the Laois. I thought Cork were brilliant at times against Kerry and probably should have won that game. They missed a load of goal chances, and they'd be saying that they have a great chance now of getting into the Super 8. They'd be fancying their chances against Laois. But I'd say Tyrone, Cavan, Galway, Mayo are the two big ones for sure.
Yeah, like just kind of thinking about the knock-on from that, of course, my Kerry hat on straight away from that. If you think about the Dubs and where they'll move from Croke Park, it's something we're always interested in. It seems that they could be set for a trip to Tyrone, because they are due to travel to the Ulster runner-up, which is Cavan. They're drawn against Tyrone. So they're either going to Breffni Park or they're going to Healy Park. Both will be testing times. But Liam, from what Tyrone have learnt last year, this is a great opportunity for them to lay down a marker to perhaps maybe get a bit closer to Dublin than they've ever got in recent times.
Yeah, and that bad loss against Donegal now will be completely, gone from their system. They've had a couple of good wins, especially at the weekend, and they'll be looking at Cavan as a good draw for themselves. You'd like to think that Cavan now, because I thought Cavan were good against Donegal. Again, we all know how good Donegal are. Right now, they're probably the second best team in the country. I thought Cavan, after a poor start, did very well against Donegal. I think they're playing really well. They have a lot of really good players now, and they're mature enough now to have a cut at that game. But you'd have to fancy Tyrone in it, and then Tyrone in Healy Park are a different animal altogether, and it could be the day, if they get into it, that they could beat the Dubs. But then again, like if the Dubs were to lose by a point or two, you still fancy them getting out of the group,
Yeah, and the CCCC will confirm all those venues and times over the next 24 hours or so, later this afternoon, actually. Listen, Liam McHale, thanks a million for taking the call.
Yeah, no problem, lads. Take care.
Cheers, Liam. We'll chat to you again soon. So it's going to be neutral venues, of course. It is round 4 of the qualifiers. There has been something said as well on the radio about the new proposals that are going to go to the Special Congress this year. John Horan talking about the club championships, first of all. I don't think this information was known. So they're going to be moved back to January, as we did know. The semi-finals the 4th or 5th of January from next year, if this new proposal passes. Next year, then, we'd hope to move it back further. Aim on our part is to have it all in a calendar year. So that's certainly encouraging stuff from John Horan, that I think most people would agree that getting the club championships finished all in the one calendar year will be a good one. He's speaking about his Tier 2 proposal to Central Council last November and again last Saturday. He says the feeling in the room was absolutely unanimous when Horan presented it to Central Council, and he thinks the Fixture Review Committee can use it to inform their decisions. You talk about some of the talking points from the weekend. This has obviously been a big one. Didn't get as much fanfare because of what happened on the pitch in both codes. What was your initial thought when you saw the proposals from John Horan?
I mean, I know what John is trying to do, and I understand what the GAA are trying to do, and I understand why the debate goes around in circles endlessly. So, the GAA are saying that the mood in the room is unanimous, and that's fair enough. If you listen to the radio and you read newspapers, you would think that the mood among the people who are going to be affected by this is unanimously against it. But I think there was a survey conducted by the GPA, and I think it got about 51% response of inter-county players, and they were mostly in favour of it. So I think for the debate to properly happen, the next step is that everybody needs to have their opinion taken, because the people who are most vehemently against this and the people who are most vehemently for this are the people who kind of shape the debate, because they're the people who are speaking the loudest on Twitter, who are on programmes like this, who are in newspapers. It needs to go before everybody, because people are going to be unhappy regardless what happens. As regards the proposals themselves, I just don't know why. I do know why they're preserving the provincial championships, but I'm kind of past that now at this stage. I just think they're beyond the need to preserve them. And I think if you get rid of the provincial championships or change them into something that happens earlier on in the year and are just standalone provincial championships, it gives you greater scope to then play with your All-Ireland Senior Football Championship. You can have, the Champions League format, or whatever we call it, 8 groups of 4, everyone gets 3 games in the championship, top 2 A championship, bottom 2 B championship. Everyone gets a crack at the big teams, everyone gets a chance to win Sam Maguire. And if you want to move the provincial championships to a standalone thing early on in the year and even use that to seed the All-Ireland Championship, fine, or whatever way you want to do it. But I think so long as the provincial championships prevail, I don't think there is a proposal that's going to be, it's obviously not going to be unanimously accepted because people are always unhappy in the GAA, but I think the provincial championships are the things that need to go in order to get a very functional and fair and across the board system.
Nathan had a good Saturday panel on the show on Saturday just gone, and we'll hear from Turlough O'Brien now. He was on with John Evans, Liam Kearns and Wayne Kieran's, and of course they got talking about the subject of Tier 2.
I know you were writing about this week. You're not for 2 tiers.
No, I'm not. No, I'm completely against it. First off, I just think that the way we're approaching this is completely wrong. It's been spoken about in isolation. I think the GAA are doing a big disservice here. The President has gone on his own agenda really to promote the tier championship, and he's appointed a fixtures committee then to look at the overall fixture programme. And I don't think he can do them separately. I think we should be looking at the whole picture, because this is bigger than inter-county football as well. It impacts on club football as well. So I think the whole lot has to be looked at together. I mean, I think club football and club hurling is probably in crisis in a lot of counties because of the inter-county scene as it is. So if we're going to add in more fixtures into the inter-county programme, as we've done in the hurling format and the Super 8s, and now we're going to go with tier championship, where's it going to stop? Where's it going to stop? Where are we going to get time for clubs for a start? In terms then of... Well,
let's ignore the club side of it for the moment.
But we can't though. This is where our problems are arising, because we're saying the GAA is about, the club is the most important unit, and yet we go off and make these decisions that impact on the clubs. So we don't have to join up thinking that we have to have about this.
Yeah, Turlough O'Brien speaking on a Saturday panel on Saturday. You can get the full thing back on youtube.com/offtheball, and it's on the podcast as well, the Saturday panel podcast. If you're just joining us, it is 9 minutes to 9. Cork versus Laois, Meath versus Clare, Cavan versus Tyrone, and Galway versus Mayo is the round 4 qualifier. Very, very tasty one indeed. Galway against Mayo, the Tithes round, and the CCCCC, one extra seat than they actually do have. We'll confirm venues later, and they will be neutral venues. We are talking about the Tier 2 Championship because John Horan has brought this up, and ultimately, as you just mentioned before we play that clip, it is just this immovable object, which is the provincial championships in the middle of all of this, and you're trying to put parts in and around this, and it just won't work. Actually, the thing that strikes me here, what is to stop these players, other than the rule that you can't play for 2 clubs, that get knocked out of the Sam Maguire race and then leave for America or leave the country after they're relegated to Tier 2?
Well, I think the problem with the Tier 2 is, in whatever format, I think first of all you have to give everybody a crack at playing in the A Championship. So if that just means that you don't go into the qualifiers or whatever it is, okay. But you can start off like we do in hurling with teams who don't have a crack at the, because that's the way it's always been. So there are, I know from talking to managers in counties that are Division 3 and Division 4, they find it hard to get the best players in the county to show up, because they've no hope of winning a provincial title and they've no hope of winning an All-Ireland title, and the commitment required to compete at that level is just too great for the reward that's there. So the theory would be that if you're playing against teams of your own standard, you have a better chance of winning. But the problem is, the reward that's going to be there, nobody wants to win because it doesn't exist yet. So how do you create something that players, that doesn't exist, that players all of a sudden want to commit to trying to win? You can't say, okay, here's the cup, it's shaped like this, here's the name on the thing, it's going to be played in Croke Park and we'll have an All-Stars thing. I don't think that does it. So the GAA's hardest task now isn't getting this over the line at Congress, isn't kind of appeasing the people who are vehemently anti this. It's actually establishing a competition that players want to play in. And to do that, I would imagine it will take a couple of years of an awful lot of heartache, of teams not really giving it a go, of players, as you say, opting out, going off to America, playing different sports or whatever. And what you would need to happen is to have a couple of really good B championships and then the thing to actually get a bit of traction. But the idea that we're going to have a B championship in 2020 and everyone's going to think it's great and we'll have a brilliant thing. It's going to be on TG Carter or whatever the proposals are going to be, and it just escalates from there. I think it's fanciful. Like it's a very hard sell for the GAA now.
John Horan mentioned the possibility, I think it was John Horan speaking about this at the weekend, the possibility of perhaps local provincial derbies being kind of made as part of the Tier 2 Championship where possible. And I think that's really important. I think if you manage to tap into that, that's your marketing opportunity. That is your Friday Night Lights opportunity. Your whatever it may be, your Offaly against your Carlow or any of those kind of Leinster teams that tend to be struggling around Division 3 at the moment. Like putting them in the shop window on a specific time that wouldn't be clashing with other games, because nobody watched the Joe McDonagh Cup final yesterday because it clashed with the Munster final. You know, like that is the main reason. If the Joe McDonagh Cup final was on a Friday night, for example, and it was live on television, would you have watched it? I certainly would have watched this, but
I'm trying to think what I was doing Friday night. No, I absolutely would. You're dead right. Like I agree with you, but I would think then that the way to do it in that situation is to actually expand the provincial championships and have a round robin amongst those teams and do that at the start.
Right.
So what you do is you kind of whittle yourself down to the big teams and then the teams who win the battle of the smaller teams, and then you have your championship from there. Because there's this talk about coverage, and I understand why people say, oh, well, the B championship won't get this coverage and the whatever. But what coverage do Division 3 or 4 matches get anyway? What coverage do the early rounds of the qualifiers get when you don't have All-Ireland contenders in them? That's the nature of coverage. Like, that's the nature of sport. You cover the thing that's big, and you can't have two competing championships going on at the same time and expect that there's going to be a huge pile of coverage. You can't expect attendances to be big, and I don't think you can expect people who aren't from the competing counties to take a huge interest in it when it's basically classed as a B championship. Like, you could have it on a Friday night, you could have it on a Tuesday morning, you could have it on Good Friday. I don't think people are going to just take an interest in it because of the schedule and the fact that it's on television, because you have to sell it. There is a marketing thing now here that needs to be cracked, because you're coming up with a completely new idea. Like this doesn't exist yet. And if you're going to bring it into an existence, you're going to have to do it with an awful lot of hoopla to sell it to the people who are going to partake in it.
One last point on this. Were they too protective of the Alliance Leagues in their current place in the year and their current format?
Again,
because moving them to the summer seemed like not the worst idea in the world. Maybe not under the guys Alliance Leagues, but
something has to give. Like, if you're going to change the leagues, then you definitely need to kill the provincial championships. Like, there's no way of moving them further down. Maybe they're the new provincial championships. Maybe there's some sort of migration system where teams come in from different divisions and then they play an All-Ireland championship. I don't know, but I just know that the leagues, I can't see them being tampered with any stage in the next 10 years because they work. They start at the time of the year when the GAA is just getting going. They end at the time of the year when, say, the Premier League season is over, the rugby season is finishing, and it maintains a very consistent level of interest all through that time. At a time of the year when club championships aren't being played, so there's no great pull on players for the services of the elite players, and we get great storylines every weekend because we have that thing, consistent games between teams of a similar standard, and the move to Saturday night was a great thing. The live TV coverage is a great thing as well. So I think because the leagues work, it's almost like the GAA will see that block of weeks as that's already taken with the league. There's no need to tamper with that. They've already condensed it to a point where I don't think they can do it anymore without player welfare being an issue.
Sure.
I don't know what the answer is. Somebody's going to be very unhappy regardless of what proposal comes in. But, you'd have to be a proponent of, like, if we all accept that the current situation isn't fit for purpose and there are too many lulls over the course of the summer and there are too many big beatings, I think doing something is eminently better than doing nothing. And whatever the best and most widely kind of accepted proposal is, I think it's worth doing it for a trial period just to see how it pans out.
Yeah, for sure. Right, just before we wrap up the GAA this hour, we're going to get carried away and predict the Super 8s and the All-Ireland finalists and all this. So just to go through it all, in one Super 8s group, you've got Dublin, you've got Roscommon, you've got Cork or Laois, and you've got Cavan or Tyrone, which means on round one of the Super 8s, you're going to have Dublin at home to Cork or Laois and Roscommon at home to Cavan or Tyrone. The middle round will be Dublin against Roscommon in Croke Park, Cork Laois versus Cavan Tyrone, whoever it may be, in the middle round in Croke Park as well. And then on the final round, as we've already said, Dublin either go to Breffni Park or Healy Park, and Roscommon will either go to Cork or Laois. From that Super 8s group, who's getting out on top and who's coming second?
Well, I think the great shame of that is the fact that the Dublin prospective Dublin-Tyrone game is at the end, because if it had been at the start or the second game, particularly if it's in Healy Park, like I think Tyrone are better built to beat Dublin than they were last year when Dublin went to Healy Park. So like that would obviously change the dynamic of the group. The thing that the absolute anathema to the Super 8's group, like the disaster situation, is dead rubber. You can't have a dead rubber, because the so few matches, you need to have drama up to the last.
Well, let's face it, Dublin are going to be through. They're going to beat Roscommon, and they're going to beat Cork Laois, and they're going to hammer Cork Laois, in fact.
And you would imagine that Tyrone would be favourites to win both those games as well, even if they have to go to Roscommon. But like, remember what they did to them last year in Croke Park. It was.
So you're saying Dublin and Tyrone are going to be semi-finalists on one side of the draw?
Yeah.
Dublin 1, Tyrone 2? But that could be the...
See, it depends on how they approach that game. Like Dublin played Roscommon last year with nothing to play for, and Jim Gavin fielded a weakened team.
Still hammered them.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that if Dublin went to Healy Park and they were through after winning their first 2 games, a lot would depend on what kind of team Jim Gavin picked, because if he fielded a weakened team, I'd back Tyrone to beat them. But if he fielded his first choice team, I mean, why would you back against Dublin at the moment? So, I mean, all things considered, you'd have to back Dublin to be 1 and Tyrone 2 in that situation.
The other group is Kerry, Donegal, Meath or Clare, and Mayo or Galway. So the first round there is in Killarney, Mayo or Galway going down to play Kerry, which will probably be the tie of the first round regardless. And Donegal hosting Meath or Clare up in Ballybuffet, you'd imagine. The second round then is the Croke Park round, so it'll be Kerry against Donegal in Croke Park, and Meath or Clare versus Mayo or Galway. And then the final round is the qualifiers at home, so Meath or Clare will host Kerry, and Mayo or Galway will host Donegal. Who are you seeing coming through from this group?
Donegal and Kerry.
So
I think we're just so...
Who's going to come third, actually? Is it going to be Mayo or Galway?
Galway.
You think Galway are going to win next weekend?
I think so, yeah. There's Galway are the draw. I think Mayo would have just been so keen to avoid, because for all, as Liam McHale said earlier on, the blandness of Galway without Damien Comer, they still know how to do the thing that makes Mayo very, very frustrated against them. And Mayo are a few men short, and you know, they're probably a small bit tired after that game last weekend. Albeit, like, when I say tired, I just mean there has to be a level of fatigue, like even mental fatigue, coming through a game like that. And just because Galway beaten them, you know, so often in the last few years, I would back Galway to win that game. So then finally, Kerry and Donegal, what order are you putting those in? Kerry 1, Donegal 2. So you've got All-Ireland semi-finals of Kerry against Tyrone and Dublin against Donegal. Could it be a repeat of 2014? Could we have a Kerry-Donegal final? Chances are it could be Dublin-Tyrone final, who knows? It's going to go close to either of those, but that's your crystal ball there. You may as well predict the full thing at this point, and we can play this back to you in the middle of September when you're banging the money about it all. Well, Dublin-Donegal should be some game. Mind you, the two of them would be really great games. I at the start of the year, I thought it was going to be a Dublin-Tyrone final and Dublin would win it. And having watched Tyrone on Saturday night, I'm more confident now of that final pairing than I was when they lost to Donegal. So Dublin-Tyrone final and Dublin to win it. Yeah, it's about to get real now over the next couple of weeks. OTBAM is sponsored by Avantcard, powered by MasterCard, and it is now 2 minutes past 9 on this Monday morning. We've got Deal or No Deal, and Phil Egan is popping in to bring us the sports news after 9 a.m. And let's get a bit more reaction now from the Munster final, because here is Cian Lynch, Peter Casey, and first John Kiley chatting to Valerie Wheeler in the Gaelic rounds.
Do you think you should have finished it out sooner, do you think?
Yeah, we should have possibly, but listen, that's the mark of a good side, like Tipperary are a class outfit, and you know they're never going to ease off until the final whistle. So you know they kept chipping away and trying to open up gaps, you know, trying to create chances for goals. So you have to be absolutely really alert to those moments, really, just to make sure and snuff them out. And the boys, to be fair to them, were very sharp in that.
8 or 9 scorers on the panel today, which is a huge positive heading into the semi-final.
Yeah, listen, we expect our midfielders and our half-backs to get forward from time to time and be able to take a score, you know, in the right circumstance, from the right place. So, you know, that's an expectation that's there, and I think it's the hallmark of a good side when that can happen. But yeah, listen, everybody worked really hard. I think we could have been a little bit more efficient, but I'll take it.
All-Ireland champions, league final champions, and now Munster champions. What's going on, John? What's it about you and your team?
I'm only worried about the next 8 weeks now, and that's it. And to be honest, I'm probably only worried about the next 4 and making sure that we get to Croke Park in the best possible shape that we can be in, and you know, do ourselves justice when we get there. The whole goal since last August has been trying to get back there. We've done that right now, and we've worked very, very hard to get there. And having worked that hard, I think we deserve to put in a really good performance on the back of all that work.
Well, Peter, congratulations. You're literally just after lifting the Munster final cup there in front of me.
Yeah, unbelievable. These are the days you dream of when you're a kid, like, you know, when you're growing up and you're poking in the backyard and stuff. So it's absolutely incredible. It's a dream come true.
Let's talk about your own performance today. 1-5 and play. It's nice to get something like that on the scoreboard.
Yeah, look, I'm delighted to get that. But look, it's the hard work of the boys out the field. Look, I was looking to get on the end of a couple of good moves. Like, you know, just delighted that they've been over the bar and they meant for me. Another day they could have gone all gone away. But look, it's these days that matter, you know.
I know you're just after winning, but straight into a semi-final again this year for the All-Ireland final. What is that like?
Yeah, unbelievable. Look, there's an unbelievable buzz around Limerick these days, you know, and to win today, like, and you know, have a 4-week break now into an All-Ireland semi-final is just another fantastic achievement. Like, and look, we're rolling on for 4 weeks' time again.
You got a knock, you alright?
Yeah, I just got a bang in the head. I didn't really see it coming. The one pass Shane Dowling gave me, like, and I ended up getting taken off. But yeah, look, these things happen as well, and thankfully I'm alright now. I'm enjoying today.
Put in a huge performance today.
Thanks a million.
Huge win here today, straight into the All-Ireland semi-final. But let's just take it back to today's performance. You kind of started, you know, slacking up, but you got into in the first maybe 20 minutes.
We always knew it, like, especially Tipperary, the way they're going this year. They're flying it, and playing them 2 weeks ago, and then we didn't show up at all. They were flying it, and we had to get back to the drawing board after that loss 2 weeks ago. And look, I always say that, I know it's a cliche, but playing in front of your home crowd and these Limerick supporters that travel everywhere, no matter where we are, but to have it here in their own home turf. I remember back in 2013, the last time we won a multi-final, we were minors, we were sitting here where those boys are sitting after drawing Armagh again, but seeing the crowd and just what it means is just unbelievable.
Winning it at home especially must be extra special.
It is though, like, looking around there, you've people who've grown up from your local village here, you've people from all over Limerick, from every corner, and smiles on the faces. But for these young fellas here, the minors, so they went out, they won today, but see the opportunity that they have going forward. But there's no point getting carried away. We'll enjoy today, but we'll get back training during the week and drive on again.
I think 8 or 9 of you got your name in the scoreboard today, which is very promising going forward.
Yeah, but come here, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter who's on the scoreboard. Everyone works hard, and it's at the end ball that goes over the bars just from the work the boys are doing in the backs and going forward. But we're great credit to Tipperary, the effort they've given all year, and I have no doubt we'll meet them again before the year's out.
The Sport Ireland campus Blanchardstown is the home of Irish sport, not just for our athletes but for you in the community. Check out our amazing offers for families with kids camps, sport academies and birthday parties. Or for adults, why not join our gym with a 50-metre pool? Or your club, school, friends can book one of our world-class indoor or outdoor facilities, including our brand new field sport covered pitches. Find out more on nationalsportscampus.ie.
Join Bruce Betting now for a risk-free first bet up to €100. That's right. New Irish accounts can enjoy a risk-free first bet up to €100. So if your first bet loses, we'll refund your stake with a free bet. Now that's giving you more. Bruce Betting. In store, online and now on your phone. T's and C's apply. Please gamble responsibly. See dunlewy.net.
You're welcome back. It is 9:07 on this Monday morning, and you're very welcome along to OTBAM. If you're just joining us, a very interesting qualifier draw as well. If you missed it this morning, coming up next weekend. Venues to be decided this afternoon. Off the Ball, I should say, in partnership with My Taxi, is hosting a very special event on the 4th of July in the Alex Hotel, and you can be there. Some brilliant guests on the night will include Irish legend Paul McGrath, former Irish international Jamie Heaslip, performance coach for the Dublin Hurlers Clean O'Connor, and former world champion boxer Andy Lee. This is an exclusive off-air event, so the only way you can see it is by being there. Tickets are free, but you must register and show proof on the day, either by printing tickets or having them downloaded on your smartphone. Check out offtheball.com/events to get your ticket to the event with our partners My Taxi Business, soon to become Free Now Business. Register today for a free business account. Phil Egan's going to be popping in with the morning sports news in just a moment, but before that, here is Liam Sheahan chatting in the aftermath of yesterday's defeat.
20 minutes, like, excellent performance. What changed? Yeah, but I don't know that we ever really. I thought our distribution of the ball, we were working off breaks, and I felt coming off scraps, and our hurling was keeping us going. But ultimately, you know, our ball into the inside line and our distribution from half back to half forward, I never thought we found the rhythm in terms of where we were positioning the ball. It was, as I said, we got the goal off a short free. Some of the work we were getting off was some scraps. We just never found our flow in terms of the way we want to move ball from end to end today, and we paid a heavy price for it, because Limerick are a really, really good side, and we knew that from 2 weeks ago, but more so from what they'd produced last year, and they came ready today, and unfortunately on this day we had no answers. But that's today, and as I said, it's the Munster final day, so now we move on to what's a new competition. It's the All-Ireland series, and there's 3 steps, and our full focus now will be on step 1 and against the opposition, which we'll probably know after next weekend.
Liam, how much of the difference do you think was physical?
Look, we know from the tackle count they were ferocious in the tackle today. They had it at both ends of the field. Up front they worked us really hard and turned us over. Even the second goal that they got came from a turnover and a ball that we looked to be bringing out. So they worked really hard off the ball, and that's something that we've got to learn from. And in fairness, I think the 4 matches previous, our work rate has been very good. We were very happy with our work ethic, but today we just couldn't find the levels. They had all the gears, and it was very obvious which team was winning the work.
The energy you say?
Yeah, well, I think when you're chasing and when you're being out muscled and outworked, they got in several blocks. But we just didn't seem to have a flow. We were blocked down a lot today. And a lot of those blocks led to individual scores. I think the time we nearly had a ball gone in the first half as well, it ended up back at the net. So look, they're a very, very, very good side, but we are better than what we showed today.
Liam Sheahan there speaking in the aftermath of the game to a couple of journalists, and that fairly comprehensive win for Limerick yesterday. Phil Egan, you're very welcome to the studio. And that's the question that's going to be asked of everybody this week is, was this a tip underperformance, or are Limerick just so good that no matter how well you perform, if you underperform just a little bit, you're going to get blown away by this side, I wonder?
Well, we did our predictions in the office beforehand. Like the weekend, we wrote up predictions, and a lot of people went for tip. But I'm glad to say I went for Limerick. Now, I'm not trying to blow my own trumpet here because I actually picked Kilkenny, so I got that one wrong. But you just looked at the difference with the team selection from 2 weeks ago, and Limerick were at full belt yesterday. Obviously, Tip since then have had a couple of injuries, but it's hard to imagine anyone stopping this Limerick team. Jeez, they were unbelievable.
What do you think?
It's been a while since it's been since Kilkenny and their pomp. That we've been so comprehensive about who we're going to win the All-Ireland. As in, all the arrows are pointing towards one very obvious winner now at this stage, because Wexford haven't been there the last few years. I think people are automatically writing off Wexford. The team that people thought would challenge them this year, Galway, are gone from the championship. I don't think anybody expects Dublin to win the All-Ireland at this stage, because Tipperary have been the team so badly beaten. In a lot of people's heads, it's hard to see them beating Limerick if they got another crack at them. And Cork could be absolutely anything on both ends of the spectrum. And as I think John said this morning, it's hard to envisage Cork winning 3 big games now, whatever about winning 1 or possibly 2. So, like, if you start doing the calculations and the sums, particularly when Limerick's performance in its totality is taken into account, it's very hard to come to any other logical conclusion.
I presume that's where you're starting this morning, Phil, is with the hurling?
Yeah, and I suppose the worry is for the others as well, is Limerick missed a fair few goal chances yesterday. Like Brian Hogan made some unbelievable saves. I know Nicky Quaid made that great save from Callanan as well, but they actually left a few scores out there. So there's room for improvement, and that would be the concern. You've gone into detail on the draw of the round 4 qualifiers.
You can remind us for anybody who's just joining us.
Yeah, I suppose the standout one, Mayo against Galway, and then you've got Cavan and Tyrone, Cork against Laois and Meath against Clare. We'll find out later this afternoon where they'll be played. We know they're going to be neutral venues, and they're going to take place this weekend as well. And it just means we have a fair idea now exactly how the Super 8s are going to look. Group 1, you've got Kerry, Donegal. You'll have Galway or Mayo, Meath or Clare. Group 2 then, you've got Dublin, Roscommon, Cork or Laois, Cavan or Tyrone. And just in terms of the opening weekend, Kerry will face Mayo or Galway in Killarney. Donegal will have a home game against Meath or Clare. Dublin will play Cork or Laois in Croke Park, and Roscommon will have Tyrone or Cavan at Dr. Hyde Park. So that's what we know, and we'll obviously the blanks will be filled in next weekend. But in terms of the hurling championship, we know Limerick and Wexford are provincial champions, which means they go into the All-Ireland semi-finals. Wexford crowned Leinster hurling champions, first time in 15 years, and the defining moment was Mark Fanning, the goalkeeper, coming up to take a late penalty, bit like Davy Fitzgerald in his pomp, scored the goal, gave them a 123-23 points win over Kilkenny at Croke Park. I don't know, did you feel watching that, Rory O'Connor going through, the cynic in me thought, just take him down.
Should have been taken down a lot earlier. It was Enda Morrissey, wasn't it, who... there
was a couple of chances to take him down, and they didn't.
Yeah. The real cynic, the hurling cynic in me straight away was like, black card needs to come in here ASAP. But to be fair, in an ideal world, you wouldn't have the double jeopardy. A penalty is probably enough in that situation. But if he was fouled outside, they would have. Yeah, I would have thought to myself, well, listen, this is a great statement for why there should be some sort of punishment for cynicism in hurling, because we've seen it on a couple of occasions this year.
I'd say you could put together a highlights reel of, like, in games just that I've been at, I could I could reel off 7-8 instances where forwards are going through on goal. Now, they mightn't have all been goals. The goalkeepers were well positioned in certain situations, but there's no doubt about it. Inside defenders in hurling are now told to take down their man after going through on goal, because the penalty is not fitting for the crime, basically. So whether that's a black card, I know there's, things change an awful lot slower in hurling than they do everywhere else. But whatever that is, there has to be a more penal punishment for that, because we're being prevented from seeing an awful lot of goals because teams are taking players down automatically.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and I suppose while that game was after the Munster final, and definitely, as we just mentioned there, Limerick have laid down a serious marker. They claimed the Munster title for the first time in 6 years with a 226-214 win over Tipperary, just 2 weeks after they'd lost to Tip. But Peter Casey and Kyle Hayes scored the goals for Limerick, who are obviously All-Ireland champions, they're now Munster champions, and they have the league title in their possession as well. So they've got a serious collection of silverware at the moment. Laois and Westmeath contested the Joe McDonagh Cup at Croke Park yesterday. Laois won by 326-121. So not only are they the winners, they also get promotion to the top tier next season, the Liam McCarthy Cup. And Laois will face Dublin next weekend for a place in the quarter-finals. Cork will take on Westmeath. Laois and Westmeath will both have home advantage for those games. And if you're looking at those two games, if there was going to be an upset, it's Laois at home to Dublin. They gave them a good go in the league.
Yeah, I think there was only a point in it.
Yeah.
Now, it was a bad night for hurling, and I think Dublin were already qualified. I know they played their sub-goalkeeper, and there was a few more changes. But if you win the way Laois did yesterday, and with the Laois are great untapped kind of. They're not that they're not fulfilling the potential, but I was talking to somebody involved with them earlier on this year, and I can't remember what he told me for the number of players that didn't accept an invitation to be asked up to the county panel. But there's huge scope for hurling in Laois, and I think getting promotion back to the Leinster Championship next year will actually see them kick on. I think they will probably perform better than Carlow did this year, and even Offaly did last year. But in the context of that game, home against Dublin in O'Moore Park, I think it's a huge game for Laois, and I don't think it would have been too long after that win on yesterday that Eddie Brennan would be telling his players that they could go and win that game.
Yeah, the biggest disappointment for me is the fact that nobody really got to see it. It was on the same time as the Munster hurling final. And
that's a shame.
And even Anthony Daly referred to it yesterday before the game, where he said, even if you're in Croke Park and you're a hurling fan, if you were in the premium, you have access to a TV, you'd probably go in and watch the Munster final.
It's a good point.
Unfortunately,
it's the reality of the situation. It's not tearing down the Joe McDonagh Cup, because I think the Joe McDonagh Cup has thrown up brilliant storylines over the last 2 years. It's caused brilliant drama, and it has given us brilliant stuff. The problem is, one, we don't get to see enough, and two, you have a clash like this yesterday. Now the GA will counter that and say, well, putting them in Croke Park before the Leinster final is great coverage for it, but then I wonder, do you go like the football with the Munster hurling final and just put it on a Saturday night?
Why did you just switch them? Why didn't you play the Munster hurling final at 2, the Leinster hurling final the Munster hurling final at 4, Leinster hurling final at 2, Joe McDonagh at 12, 12:15 or wherever it is, and all three are on television.
You wouldn't get the great Wexford moment in the minors though yesterday.
See, that I was thinking about that as well.
9 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, 10 o'clock start. Yeah, you have to have a serious amount of sandwiches for that day out. In the ladies' football, the All-Ireland champions Dublin made it 8 Leinster titles in a row. Mick Bowen's side got the better of Westmeath by 4-11 to 1-7. Donegal have 3 Ulster titles in a row. They beat Armagh by 5-12 to 1-9. In Clonus. The Ireland team that won 7 medals at the European Games in Minsk is due back at Dublin Airport Terminal 1 just after 11 o'clock this morning. And 1 gold medal, Kurt Walker, the Lisburn boxer, won gold yesterday in the bantamweight division, and world champion Kelly Harrington was forced to pull out of her final due to a hand injury, so she had to settle for a silver medal. We never got to see that Kelly Harrington and Mira Potkanen final that we wanted to see. That Potkanen was the fighter that knocked Katie Taylor out in the Rio Olympics.
Very briefly, Kurt Walker, how big is his potential? He's really realised it already.
Yeah, he's going to have to fight at a different weight at the Olympics. It'll be featherweight, so he might have to go up a couple of, I think it's 1 or 2 kilos, but it's that won't be a big deal for him. But took out the top 2 seeds, that's unbelievable. And this, the team which had Katie Taylor and Michael Conlon 4 years ago, as good as that was, they've got a bigger haul of medals. The Irish boxers continue to deliver, and even with the disappointment of Joe Ward not being at the games because he's turned pro, There was a great story. There's great stories with this Irish boxing team, and 6 medals is a serious haul. Are we right in saying 7 medals? Because Sam and Chloe McGee mixed doubles, do they get a medal each? Is there a technicality that it's 8 medals? But I think 7 podium finishes, we can say.
7 podium finishes.
That's how I should have phrased it.
That's why you're paid the big bucks for being a wordsmith.
Wimbledon starts today. It's it kind of goes in under the radar a little bit because there was so much GAA action yesterday. But Novak Djokovic is among those in first round action. He is due on centre court just after 1 o'clock when he takes on Philip Kohlschreiber. And former Newcastle manager Rafa Benitez has broken his silence since departing the club. It happened last week, and he says he decided to leave the club because those in charge did not share the same vision. His contract ended yesterday, and in a statement on social media he said he wanted to stay but just didn't want to sign an extended contract without a shared project.
Yeah, good stuff from Rafa Benitez, kind of putting his heart on the line there this morning, so we got to see exactly what was going on. There's also breaking news this morning that Derby County have excused Frank Lampard from reporting back for pre-season training today and tomorrow. That allows for discussions over a potential move to Chelsea to be concluded as soon as possible, so we should get confirmation of that very shortly. Will Frank Lampard hold up the Chelsea jersey when he goes there, the classic?
Would it be a jersey or a scarf?
Jersey or a scarf over the head. I think it's got to be the scarf over the head. I'm not quite sure what they're going to do there. We are going to talk transfers because it is deal or no deal time. It is the most important slot on OTBAM every single morning. We embrace silly season here in the company of Phil Egan and friends, and this morning we've got 7 specific transfer rumours we want to go through. There's lots of them, but we only really have time for the 7 biggest ones this morning, as we can hear the title track rolling. And we're going to start with Liverpool this morning because they are open to bringing Brazil playmaker Philippe Coutinho back to the club after the 27-year-old struggles at Barcelona. From a Liverpool perspective, deal or no deal?
I would say no deal.
Why?
Because I think of how he left the club.
As their best player?
Well, they're doing all right without him.
They are? They can do even better with him?
I don't know, because there's a certain way they play and he doesn't really fit into that. Like they have more attacking, they're more dynamic in attack without him. Obviously, there's games where you need him, where you think, how are they going to break down this defence? But is it worth bringing him back just for those games? They've done fine without him. And also, I don't know, like, I think Liverpool have moved on. Like 2 years ago when he left, Liverpool were a club that unfortunately were losing their best players. Now, here we are on the 1st of July, we're not talking about any of the big 3 lads leaving or the likes of Mane or Salah going. Like Liverpool are in a position where they can attract players. It'd be like for Coutinho, it would be great for him because he'd be coming into a team that is still on the up. But if you're Liverpool, especially, I don't know what kind of welcome he would get, because this is a guy that said he had a few injuries because he wanted to get out of there.
What do you reckon, Conor? No deal?
No, didn't Klopp leave him on the bench for... Like he doesn't fit into any of the 3 positions in midfield, and he doesn't have the pace for the 2 wide positions, so I think this is nonsense.
So that was reported from Le 10 Sport via the Mirror.
He's a broken man now.
Well, that's the thing. Clearly this is nonsense, this rumour. So Le 10 Sport, whoever you are, you need to get your act together because it's a no deal for Philippe Coutinho. Manchester United, we've got 3 Manchester United rumours. Manchester United, according to L'Equipe via Metro, could still beat Tottenham Hotspur to the signing of Lyon midfielder Tanguy Ndombele, as Spurs, who have agreed a fee with the Ligue 1 club for the 22-year-old, have yet to finalise personal terms with the French international. Should United go and gazump Ndombele from beneath the jaws of Tottenham Hotspur, deal or no deal?
United should 100% do that. He's exactly what United need.
Hard-working midfielder.
Yeah, he's got good, quick feet. Very physical as well. They need a presence in midfield. They need, like, you think of Matic, when he arrived at United, he started off pretty well and you thought, okay, he's one of Mourinho's better signings. But then when Matic is bad, he is awful. He just looks like an old man.
Yeah.
They've lost Herrera's energy in there as well. I've got high hopes for McTominay. I think he's certainly got potential. But this guy, Ndombele, is exactly what United need. And if they can beat Spurs to a signing, I'd say go for it.
Aston Villa midfielder John McGinn will be the subject of a bid from Manchester United, who will have to pay £50 million for the 24-year-old Scotland international. 50 million quid for John McGinn, deal or no deal?
What? No, that's like he was Villa's player of the season.
Yeah, he was great. But he's not £50 million great.
No, but see, everything's gone a bit crazy since Neymar's deal. Like 50 million. Like there's talk of United trying to sign Sean Longstaff as well. So they're obviously looking for a midfielder. Maybe they want that young kind of English or Scottish midfielder. Maybe they're sick of these Galactico kind of signings, but 50 million on John McGinn. Like the guy hasn't even played in the Premier League.
There's talk that Arsenal's transfer budget for the entire summer is 40 million.
Yeah.
So if they can't sign one John McGinn, they don't hold up too much hope that they're going to be in the Champions League this time next season.
Portugal attacking midfielder Bruno Fernandes could still make the switch from Sporting Lisbon to Manchester United, with the Premier League club set to step up their interest. Stepping it up in the interest of Bruno Fernandes. Deal or no deal?
That's a deal that you would be great for United.
Pursue him. You mentioned Arsenal there, Conor. Napoli are considering a move for Celtic defender Kieran Tierney, with Arsenal yet to make an acceptable bid for the 22-year-old. From a Napoli perspective, is this a deal or no deal?
It'd be a great deal. I mean, haven't Napoli also been linked with Kieran Trippier as well?
Yeah, so they're really in the market for a fullback.
They love British fullbacks.
Yeah, I think he's quality, Tierney. I don't like. He's not going to be as good as Andy Robertson if people think that he's just not as. He doesn't bomb down the wing as much.
But he's
very good.
He's got Scottish knowledge. He's a fullback. He has to be like Andy Robertson. Everybody's going to be like Andy Robertson. The Andy Robertson mould is there, and everybody's going to be like him.
Well, Alan Hutton started it.
Well, yeah, Alan Hutton was the real Andy Robertson. Wilfried Zaha's proposed move to Arsenal, meanwhile, is in doubt because Chairman Steve Parish reportedly believes letting the star player go could wreck his chances of selling the club. The forward has his heart set on a move to boyhood club Arsenal. However, the Sun claims that Parish is concerned that a Zaha departure could wreck his chances of finding new owners who share his long-term vision. This means a big deal, big money from Arsenal for Wilfried Zaha. Let's just throw it out at 50s.
Where are they getting the money from then?
They have to sell the stadium, I think.
Let's break their entire transfer budget for the summer. Deal or no deal for Wilfried Zaha?
I think it'd be a good deal for Arsenal. I'm really interested to see what Zaha would be like away from Crystal Palace. Forget what happened at Manchester United, because he talked about how he just couldn't really settle into the area. He's a London lad, like he'd be staying in London. Certainly the way Arsenal play would suit him.
Yeah.
But there is that pressure where you have to deliver more often than not. Now he does tend to do it, but some games he's not as effective. And like with Crystal Palace, you can have an off day and people aren't going to really hold it against you. Whereas like Arsenal are trying to get back into the Champions League places, and they're going to need to be overperforming. So if he is going to go to Arsenal, he's going to have to be...
I think they'd have to lose a couple of their more high-earning players to afford him. I don't even think it's a question of transfer value. I'd say Arsenal's squad is on a very much a Champions League budget in year 3 of your Europa League income. So, like if you have Mesut Ozil and Henrik Mkhitaryan drawn over $500,000 in wages a week, one or both of those need to go before you can start.
How do you get rid of Ozil?
Well, that's the tricky thing. That's a story for another day. One last deal or no deal one before we get to a bonus question. This is a clanger. A cracker, I should actually say, not a clanger at all. Real Madrid are preparing to offer Spain midfielder Marco Asensio to Liverpool, but want Senegal international forward Sadio Mane in exchange.
Sure they do.
Deal from a Real Madrid perspective. How bad a move would this be from a Liverpool perspective? Would this be the worst piece of business in the history of the transfer market if Liverpool were to offer Sadio Mane?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I actually think out of all the front three, I think Mane is now the most important for them, because Salah I know the two of them scored 22 league goals each last season, and Salah tends to get most of the headlines. But when Salah doesn't have the best game, he can be quite ineffective. Whereas if Mane's having an off day where he's not able to score, he still creates because he just ghosts by defenders. I think the way every team has that man.
Yeah, he is that
Sadio Mane has become that man for Liverpool.
Isn't Asensio a bit of a flighty number 10 sort of in the mould that Liverpool just don't have in their team?
Yeah, it's true. Bonus question very quickly. Juventus are set to sign Adrien Rabiot on a free transfer. Have they won the coveted winner of the transfer market trophy, Juventus?
I've seen Rabiot playing before. I went to
for free though. Him and Ramsey for free. That's good.
And
going.
It's good going. Like they always do it. Like I mean, didn't they get Matuidi for next to nothing? They got Emery Chan for a free transfer as well. But Rabiot he's decent. But
yeah, so you're not saying they've won the trophy yet. It's all to be paid for as the winner of the transfer market is what you're telling me.
Yeah, but then again, it's hard to argue when you're not paying for it.
That's the good news is that Dealer Nutty will have to make a welcome return tomorrow to try and determine who the winner of that is. Conor and Phil, thanks a million for everything this morning. If you missed anything this morning, catch us back on the podcast on OTBAM, or you'll hear some of our highlights across the day on OTB Sports Radio. We'll have all of our live content, your favourite off the ball podcasts, and OTB Gold, a collection of the very best off the ball content since 2002. Some of our highlights today include the Andy Lee special recently, Formula 1 legend John Watson talks Nicky Lauda and Ayrton Senna, and Brian O'Driscoll talking retirement in Leinster with Egan Sarah. That's a great piece, and they're just some of the highlights that you'll find on Ireland's sports radio station over at offtheball.com/radio. Tonight on Off the Ball, live from 7 o'clock on News Talk, all the analysis and reaction from the weekend. We're back tomorrow morning from 7:30. We'll have Ronan O'Gara on the line, and we'll be previewing England versus USA in the semi-finals of the Women's World Cup. We'll chat to you tomorrow morning. Bye-bye for now.
OTB AM.
Brought to you by Avantcard Reward Plus Credit Card. Powered by MasterCard. Straight up better than your current credit card. Avantcard DAC is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.